Pirates Fire Dragon Roar Chapter 661 to 680. Chapter 661 Round Table. Hey, why haven't you come yet? How long do you want us to wait? Inside a certain luxurious building, in a certain room, some men with 2 mustaches were sitting on chairs with impatient expressions, their backs sticking to the large chairs, and the chairs were deliberately placed. The distance from the table was wide, and his feet were already on the huge chair in front of him, looking like he was hanging around. In sharp contrast to his posture, he wears a luxurious crown on his head. This man is the king of a certain country. King Saffron, if I were you, I would put my feet down. The Lord told us to wait, then we should wait, just like this. I don't think there is any need for other superfluous things. Do. Opposite him, a young man sitting with his arms closed, his eyes closed and resting, opened his eyes, a very handsome young man, also wearing a crown on his head, because, naturally, if you don't want that adult to be unhappy, it's better to be honest. Che, are you teaching me a lesson? Rolling his eyes in disdain, the man named Saffron twitched the corner of his mouth. Better take care of yourself first. Young man. It is because I am young that I understand very well. The young man whispered, what is so I know what to do and what not to do. Little devil, what do you mean? What do you mean this king should do something? Saffron's expression suddenly turned hideous. I still need you to teach me. Are you provoking this king? It didn't mean that. The young king shook his head and said softly, fright and fear are useless. I thought you knew very well, King Saffron, fear is useless. We have only followed this path from the beginning. Isn't this the consciousness that was made after hanging up that man's flag? What? Sha Fulin stood up directly and slammed his fist heavily on the round table in front of him. The hard stone round table was directly smashed into a big pothole. Although this man was born to be a king, he was not without hands. The power of the chicken. Boy, what are you talking about? Fear, are you talking about Lao Tzu? Enough, King Saffron, sit down. Suddenly, the man who was sitting on the other side watching the play said solemnly, don't you think it's too ugly? Cut. With a low snort, Saffron put his arms around his chest and returned to his position, but the rising and falling of his chest still showed that the man was not so calm. Your territory, this king will of course give you a face. But it doesn't mean that this kid's offense to this king is done. Ha ha ha, it's really interesting. At this time, the last person in the room also spoke at noon. It was a woman. She looked like a woman in her 30s, with heavy makeup. She looked a little enchanting. She was a very moving woman. She was the queen of a certain country. How about several sinner kings who are about to perish and attack each other before they are put to death? What do you mean? Saffron was like a cat whose tail was stepped on, instantly frying. What do you mean? Isn't it very clear? Woman smiled and put her hands on her face. Our country has been targeted by the fire dragon, and he used extremely terrifying power to forcibly gather our country together, and an unprecedented huge country was born like this. Did he deliberately make it to play? Is it? Shut up, Melba. The man who stopped Saffron before stopped the woman named Melba's dangerous speech again. Do you know what you are talking about? Use your brain before you speak. Yeah, what a murderer, you're frightening me. The woman named Melba patted her towering chest lightly, looking like she was overly frightened, but did I say it wrong? King Galzan. Wrong. The young man who spoke first suddenly said so. Oh, did you reject me without hesitation? Melba looked at the young king with interest, then talk about it, your opinion, young and handsome, King Gakuma. I don't like it. The young king named Gakuma said with certainty, that lord, with his arrogance, doesn't look down on us. Are you kidding me? Saffron frowned. King Gakuma, we have 4 kingdoms. No, maybe another kingdom will be added soon. The wealth of the 5 kingdoms gathered together. Do you think he doesn't care? That's right. Gakuma nodded and said, although I don't know what his purpose is for the time being, he definitely didn't come directly at us. I'm sure of this. Because he is. Gakumar raised his head, the one who dared to challenge the world, Vlad the Fire Dragon. Yeah, is this recognized? Ha, I'm really happy. Crack. The voices of some high men sounded, the door of the conference room was pushed open, and Vlad walked in with a certain man. It seems. Vlad smiled and looked at the 4 people in the room one by one. I'm here at the right time. Just in time to be complimented. Lord Vlad. Almost instantly, the 4 kings in the room stood up at the same time and made a big bow towards Vlad. No matter what I said before, it must be respected now. Sit, sit, sit. Vlad said casually, and sat down at the top of the round table that had been vacated all the time. You sit too. Vlad said to the man who followed him, King Astra. Yes. Astra nodded and found a seat to sit down. At this point, the 6 people in the round table meeting finally arrived. The 5 kings, and their protector, Vlad, the father, can finally start a meeting. It is related to the subsequent development issues and the harmonious development of Vlad's territory. Of course, it is not sloppy at all, and it must be taken seriously. This meeting is very necessary. Okay. Vlad clapped his hands and smiled. Then the meeting can officially begin. This time it involves 5 kingdoms and more than 10 million people. Of course, before the meeting, I would like to stress that. Vlad's eyes fell on King Gakuma. It is also necessary to explain, as King Gakumar said, I myself have no interest in your country. Chapter 662 Start Up. One of the purposes of this meeting is to appease these panicked kings. These guys are not fools. Vlad makes a big move and they will naturally think of many things. X23 US. Com updates fastest. For example, is it because the newly debuted 4 emperors disliked the protection fees being too low, so he simply wanted to make a big vote and directly aggregate these countries and forcibly return them to their own rule? Putting himself in his shoes, if Vlad was any of the 5 kings present, he would definitely think so. Nonsense, even the country was directly removed by someone, could it be that he just wanted to make a joke with someone? As long as he is a normal-minded king, he will think too much. Vlad doesn't care. He doesn't care what these people think. If it wasn't for the implementation of his second goal of changing the world and starting the Industrial Revolution, he didn't pay attention to these people's thoughts at all. He did what he wanted to do. To put it in a fashionable phrase, Vlad has been doing his whole life, why should he explain it to others? But since Vlad wants to carry out an industrial revolution in these people's countries, of course, he still has to communicate with these guys, otherwise the work will not be easy to carry out. The Fire Dragon Pirates are a pirate group, a violent group, not anything a powerful group for governing the country. Without the cooperation of these kings, the reforms envisaged by Vlad may not progress quickly. As the saying goes, strong dragons do not suppress local snakes. Vlad is undoubtedly a strong dragon, but these guys are also authentic local snakes that can no longer be authentic. In a word, Vlad needs their help. Don't think too much. Vlad spread his hands. I'm not interested in your country, not at all. Then, Lord Vlad. Saffron said impatiently, why? Why bring so many countries together? Vlad leaned back in his chair lazily and said casually, you want to ask this, right? This is. The beautiful woman looked at Vlad without blinking, and subconsciously moved her lips twice. All of us have a common doubt. Please tell us, Lord Vlad, if your goal is not our country, then, Lord Vlad, please tell us, what is your purpose? Well. Vlad raised his eyebrows, are you questioning me? Don't dare. The woman named Melba smiled, it's just about our country, we have to be careful. Perfect reason. Quote. Vlad praised, then it's not a big deal to tell you. Or, this meeting exists to tell you such a fact. Then. The man named Golzin said solemnly, I would like to hear more about it. Because of one of my plans. Vlad smiled. Plan. Astra frowned, is that what you said before, a plan that requires a lot of human and material resources to be achieved? That's right. Vlad smiled, I call it the Fire Dragon Pirates Plan to promote the prosperity and development of the subordinate waters and improve the happiness of the people. Huh. Melba was a little confused. Simply put, Vlad said casually, a new era is coming, understand? My plan will bring new conditions to this sea. This. The man named Gakuma wondered, with all due respect, Lord Vlad, is this perfunctory for us? Without revealing anything, what plan in empty vernacular do you want to convince people? What kind of joke are you playing? Well, of course there are plans. Vlad smiled. Come on, the plan will serve you. Crack. With a smile on Vlad's face, he gently snapped his fingers. I don't know why, recently Vlad is more and more like to snap his fingers. Crack. The air suddenly cracked, an air door opened, and a woman in a maid outfit had walked out. Oh, that's it. Melba's eyes were glowing, the legendary pirate ship of the Fire Dragon Pirates. Platinum, D-Drag. Now is not the time to be amazed. Vlad said casually, look at it, the plan. The maid held a stack of papers on her mobile phone, and distributed a copy to each king one by one. Without saying too much, she walked into the door of the air again and disappeared in front of everyone. Yeah, what an amazing power. Melba looked surprised. Can I ask you to read the plan carefully? Of course. Melba threw a wink at Vlad, picked up the plan on the table and looked at it carefully. For a while there was silence in the conference room. Factory, what's the point of that? Gently putting down the plan on the phone, the man named Golzin said solemnly, Lord Vlad, our country is already self-sufficient. No, no, no. Vlad shook his head, you still don't understand, King Golzin, what does the so-called factory mean? Large-scale standard production means higher quality and lower cost. And, overwhelming production speed, understand. Other people's products are completely uncompetitive. And, hey, that Vegapunk designed it himself to make more products than you can imagine. Once you start it, you'll make a lot of money. King Golzin fell into contemplation, however, the construction problem. Don't worry. Vlad spread his hands, my human resources are beyond your imagination. After all, no one said that things like dragon-tooth soldiers are meant to be used for battle, right? Lord Vlad, this. Saffron looked very eager. Is it true that the seeds that can increase production on a large scale are real? Of course. Vlad nodded. How can the Industrial Revolution not solve the problem of having enough to eat? How can I work on an empty stomach? Rest assured, the world's top biologists produce products, and it is not a problem to increase the output tenfold, and it will be solved from now on. The problem of famine, quote. At the same time, the rapid increase in agricultural output will inevitably bring about a rapid depreciation of agricultural products. At the same time, coupled with the use of agricultural machinery, a large number of farmers will inevitably come out of the land, and the labor force of the factory will also come from here. Then the brutal exploitation at the beginning of the industrial age will soon make these workers understand that if they don't do something, their fate will not be good. I'm fine. Saffron smiled. I'm curious, Lord Vlad. Melba asked, what does this so-called media structure around the Fire Dragon Sea mean? Well. Vlad spread his hands, enrich everyone's spare time. How can we carry out the Industrial Revolution without liberating people's intelligence and letting the idea of freedom and equality spread? Then don't scold MMP. Master Vlad, this is what I care about. The man named Gakumar asked, Sea Train Circulation System. This is. Have you heard of the Sea Train? A new thing in the 7 waters of paradise. Vlad smiled, good thing, since I've decided to make big news. Of course it can't be just your place. The follow-up island relocation project is already on the way, and the islands that are already approaching will not be strengthened. How's the construction going? Lord Vlad, my question is. Astra asked, with the explosive production increase, can our transportation capacity keep up? Sea trains can't sail across the ocean, right? Also, the sales of goods. How to ensure the channels? The problem of overproduction of goods backlog. No problem. Vlad smiled, the super large transport ship is under construction. In addition, don't worry about the sales place. Among my friends, there is a guy with a lot of ways. Astra nodded. Afterwards, several people discussed the issues in the plan again and again, and it could be seen that these kings were already tempted. Okay, let's stop here. Vlad nodded with satisfaction, almost ready to start. Reconsideration. Several kings spoke in unison. Chapter 663 Fire Dragon Country. By the way, it must be very inconvenient for you to link the countries together. Vlad finally remembered this. Indeed, it is absolutely impossible to forcibly integrate several countries without any problems. After all, several countries with different cultures, customs, and even climates in the past suddenly becoming a family is not like what the story says. It's just a good family, and it's very likely that there will be a direct battle of life and death. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Fortunately, these guys are not free individuals, and they still have the ancestor Vlad on their heads. Vlad certainly won't allow these guys to engage in infighting to sabotage his grand plan to change the world. Vlad pinched his chin. Well, conflict is absolutely not allowed. Whoever does something will die. Is that okay? No objection. Quote. The kings looked at each other, not knowing what to say for a while. Understood. If anyone drags me back in my reforms and causes me trouble. Vlad's eyes swept across the 5 kings present, and said softly, trust me, if you can easily move the countries you are here, then sinking them into the sea is also very easy. Oh, I will never let go of any guy who dares to be lousilu. Yes. Unanimously, at this time, of course, no fool would dare to sing against Vlad. There are few people in the world who want to die from their hearts. Then, Vlad pondered, I'm not good at interfering in your internal affairs, so let's just settle things in your respective countries as usual, and the 5 of you will vote to resolve matters in the newly added public areas. How about that? Can I trust you? Will you give me a satisfactory answer sheet? Of course. The 5 kings nodded heavily. Woo ha ha ha, that's good. Vlad smiled, then, I declare that this roundtable is over. Dash 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 dash. Woo ha 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 ha, I'm so awesome. On the huge island suspended in the sky, Vlad stood on the edge of the island, laughing loudly, looking very happy. There is such a result in a week. Hello, isn't it amazing? Vlad, you guy, you are too powerful. It's really good, Captain. Behind Vlad, Miss Musician said excitedly, our bass is so cool. Really handsome. Captain, you are a genius. Ha 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 ha. Vlad looked like he was alone and begging for defeat. Now it seems that I am invincible in terms of architecture. Ah, the laughter has changed. Serena looked surprised. Not that Vlad was proud, but that in the week following the roundtable meeting with the 5 kings, he did some amazing things. It can be seen from the island of Thassa under his feet. This island is already a huge island flying in the sky. I don't know why, there are several huge islands floating around. These islands are surrounded by seawater barriers. The machinery factory of the Fire Dragon pirates is built on these islands. Above, on the sea surface, there is also an island. People come and go, and construction workers are working on it. Around this island, there are huge waterways that are like mosquito coils, which are directly connected to the huge island in the sky. Above the community. Of course, ordinary sea ships cannot rush to the islands above the sky through such waterways, but the large sea ships that the Fire Dragon pirates are building can. Then, few people know that this waterway is also connected to an island on the bottom of the sea, where the most core research team and the most sophisticated manufacturing equipment of the Fire Dragon pirates are located. This is the base structure of the current Fire Dragon pirates. The trinity of sea, land and air is really cool, and the fashion value is extremely high. But more than that, Vlad has done more than just this one week. He has done other things, equally amazing things. A week ago, Vlad only synthesized one island, which has now been named the super island of Dragon Claw Island, but a week later, the earth-shaking change has taken place. There are 2 more islands of the same huge size, each integrating 2 islands of the 4 kingdoms, named Longi Island and Longi Island respectively, which happen to be distributed around Thassa Island in 3 dots. In addition, there are more than 20 sub-islands formed by the fusion of many villages and towns scattered among the 3 large islands and Thassa Island. Vlad brought together all the town-states that could be brought together. The consequence of this was that the rest of the seas he ruled had been evacuated by him, leaving only the empty sea, and the original island had been completely emptied. Disappear. The predictable thing is that the pirates who pass through this sea area are destined to be stunned. There is no sign of the existence of the island in the direction pointed by the pointer. Vlad is very happy about this situation. The benefits of this concentration are obvious. Needless to say, the concentration of manpower and material resources is naturally easier. In addition, the task of guarding the pirate group under his command is also much easier. You only need to cruise in the nearby sea area, not too simple. With Thassa Island as the center, a huge sea empire has been formed, and the number of people has exceeded 60 million, which is an extremely terrifying number. Vlad is very satisfied. Such a result is simply very gratifying. Just like the previous exchanges with the 5 kings, after experiencing cordial and friendly exchanges with Vlad, these countries were suddenly moved to a strange sea, and the regions were very happy to join Vlad. In the plan, Vlad is very happy, so that the work can officially start. Hey, Captain, when did the construction of the multimedia system you're talking about start? Behind the intoxicated Vlad, Miss Musician asked excitedly. What? Can't wait. Vlad smiled. Right now, it's the least technical thing. There's really nothing to say about things that can be done directly with a phone bug. Hum hum hum. Miss Serena hummed a little proudly. Am I going to be a big star again? Well, do you miss it? Vlad said casually. Yeah. Serena nodded heavily. I miss you so much. Huh, Captain, I suddenly have an idea. Serena suddenly had a flash of light in her mind. How about calling Dad and the others over as well? Oh Tilda. Vlad's eyes lit up. You're such a clever little devil. Chapter 664 Find a Technician. Vlad left the New World again and flew directly towards the paradise, not to play. Uncle Vlad has been very busy recently. He was looking for someone. X23 US. Com updates fastest. The Industrial Revolution does not mean that it can be done. If it wants to continue, it will undoubtedly need talents. Although Vlad's Fire Dragon pirates have a huge talent pool because they have picked the government's peaches, it's better to let professional people do it. In the new world of Fire Dragon Kingdom, all the work has begun to be carried out in an orderly manner. The laying of media facilities is the easiest, and can be done by a few phone bugs. The laying of the originally most difficult communication facilities is due to the magical creatures like phone bugs. Existence becomes extremely simple. Secondly, the planting of new crops developed by Paso has also begun to spread. That guy's research scope has expanded from animals to plants. It is not difficult to make high-yield crops like this at his level. Although Vlad said 10 times before is bragging, but the actual value is not much higher than this, plus the extremely short production cycle, the loose requirements for the growing environment. These new crops are said to be the artifact is not an exaggeration, except that it degenerates quickly, and the harvested seeds basically cannot be planted again. There is no other weakness. It can only be said that the scientists in this world are really monsters. Not only seeds, but also through genetic modification, all kinds of animals that have also increased their productivity and growth rate have also been put into production. It is foreseeable that in the soon-to-be Fire Dragon Kingdom, food and meat will increase in production like a blowout. Only when you have enough food and drink can you have the strength to do things. While the planting industry is changing, huge factories are also starting to build. The pirates under the Fire Dragon pirates are in a state of doing nothing because of the shrinking of the patrol area. These are in the new state. The pirates who are roaming the world are really the best labor force. Coupled with the addition of the Dragon Tooth core, the construction speed is outrageous. It won't take long for those who lost their land due to the new land annexation law to enter the factory. Already working. And what Vlad has to do now is the construction of the sea train. Because of his actions, these islands are already very close together, and it is completely possible to connect them all with a sea train. In this way, these people who are obviously from all over the New World can really integrate into one body, although with serious forced color. But for Uncle Vlad, it's not bad. Although the Vegapunk guy can definitely handle this kind of work easily, but after he helped Vlad build the machine tool last time, he said that he would never do such unskilled things again, so he could not be stubborn. Vlad had to ask another clever. Fortunately, there are still 2 guys in the world who are extremely good at the construction of sea trains, and the 2 guys who built the first sea train together with their masters. What's even more coincidental is that Vlad happened to know the whereabouts of these 2 people. How could Master Vlad leave it alone for such a coincidence? Of course, he flew to the paradise immediately and took both of them back. Dash 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 dash. Yeah, what a place I haven't seen for a long time. Now at the door of a certain bar, Vlad suddenly looks a little emotional. This is the 3rd time he has come to this place. The first time he saw Fire Fist Ace here, the second time he brought a dead man with him. Senior Golden Lion came to exchange for Shichibukai's position, and also met the right and left hand of One Piece, King of Pirates for the first time here. Pluto Rayleigh and One Piece, King of Pirates, old enemy, Garp the Fist. This is really a magical place. Then, today is my 3rd time here. Crack. Pushing open the door in front of him, Vlad strode in. Welcome. The mouth of the woman behind the counter with the cigarette gradually widened, and then a faint smile hung on her face. Look, am I dim-eyed? Named Shaki laughed. Who did I see? Vlad the Fire Dragon. Hey, long time no see, Shaki. Vlad smiled and said hello. Hey, one of the 4 emperors, Vlad the Fire Dragon. Why would such a big man come to such a place? Shaki smiled. Well, I'm here to find someone. Vlad said bluntly. Tell me, Shaki, where is that guy Frankie? Frankie. Shaki was stunned for a moment, and then said in surprise, is that buddy of the Straw Hat brother? That's right. Vlad snapped his fingers. That's him. I came back from the New World to find him on purpose. It's unbelievable. Shaki said in surprise. Brother Hualong will come back to find someone on purpose. No way. Vlad shrugged. I can't help it. I need that guy's skills. Technology. Shaki was stunned. Brother Fire Dragon, are you joking? I know, isn't that Vegapunk right there with you? With the help of that man, do you still need help from others? Well, that Vegapunk guy is really good, yes. Vlad spread his hands, but he thinks that the skills I want him to do are too low, so he quit. Ha ha ha, that's really annoying. Shaki's laughter has a sense of schadenfreude. Okay, so, Shaki, tell me. Vlad whispered, where's that guy Frankie? Well. Dash 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 dash. On a desert island, the roar continued to spread. Yo, why can't it be used? The jet-head man with an extremely odd body proportion muttered to himself a little distressed. In front of him were large rocks with huge fist marks all over them. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji can all be used, so wouldn't it still be of no help? The man's name is Frankie, formerly Katie, Flam, a disciple of the legendary fish man boatman Tom. Because of the previous Enies Lobby incident with the Straw Hat Pirates, I was attracted by this group of people. In addition, I was wanted by the government. I simply joined the Straw Hat Pirates. Now I accept the legendary pirates, the training of Hades Rayleigh. While this is a very happy thing, Rayleigh, the king of the underworld, is a name that makes people feel bloody just hearing it, but the truth is that maybe not everyone is suitable for his guidance. Straw Hat Luffy of the Straw Hat Pirates, Zoro the Pirate Hunter, and Sanji Kurozu are of course like a duck to water, and they have basically been able to use haki not long ago. But unfortunately, other people can't do it, like Frankie, who doesn't feel it at all until now. I don't know why, maybe it's because the physique is not enough, or because the body is no longer complete. The human body has been transformed. In any case, this is really a pity. That is when Frankie sighed to himself. Yeah, I finally found you. It's been a long time, Frankie. Chapter 665 Goodbye Straw Hat. Huh, hey. The white-haired old man sitting on top of the big rock suddenly pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose, looking a little surprised. Here comes an amazing guy. Hey, Rayleigh. Not far away, a man in a vest and shorts ran in front of Rayleigh, and said with some distress, "It won't work no matter what, armament hardening or something." "Can't you use it?" "Ha ha ha, then there's no way." "Oh." Was still Hockey even in his old age laughed. "What should I do in this case?" "Hey, Rayleigh." Dissatisfied with the old man's attitude, Monkey D. Luffy's man protested, "I'll learn it in a minute." "Ha ha ha ha, since the big words have been said, then." Rayleigh stared into his disciple's eyes. "Luffy, if you're a man, then you have to do it even if you die." "Of course it is." Hands clenched, raised high, Monkey D. Luffy fighting spirit high. X23 US. Com updates fastest. "Ha ha ha ha, that's so imposing." "But, Luffy." Rayleigh laughed, "There's an acquaintance on the island, do you want to visit?" Rubber Man blinked, "Acquaintance. Dash 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 dash. Oh, really?" A very surprised man's voice came from behind. "Isn't this a long time no see? Mr. Frankie?" "Huh." Surprised and turned around, Frankie raised his head and saw someone. His eyes gradually widened, and a happy expression appeared on his face. "Yo, this is not. Mr. Vlad. Hey, it's been a long time." In front of Frankie, who is not Vlad sitting on the thick branch. "Mr. French." "Da." Landing gently on the ground, Vlad smiled, "I'm here to ask you for help." "Help?" Frankie blinked his eyes, a little confused. "Are you looking for me?" "Well, Mr. French." Vlad nodded, "Super reliable. I came here from the New World. That guy Vegapunk is not reliable at all. After much deliberation, Mr. Frankie is more reliable." "Vegapunk? Is that the Vegapunk?" Frankie's eyes widened for a moment. "That Vegapunk? Which Vegapunk could it be?" Vlad spread his hands. "It seems that this guy hasn't read the newspapers much recently, and he doesn't know the news that spreads to the sea. He's working on my side now. Really, it's unreliable at all. After thinking about it, the only one who can do that job is Mr. Frankie." Frankie was stunned for a moment, then Doda's tears appeared in his eyes. "Woohoo to trust me so much. Damn it, you bastard, if you don't, you can't refuse." "Woo ha ha." Vlad smiled. "It's still as fun as ever, Mr. French. Although I myself want to help you, Mr. Vlad." It's like what Frankie said, but Frankie's eyes narrowed. "I'm now a member of the Straw Hat Pirates, a subordinate of Monkey D. Luffy, and I can't move freely without the captain's permission." Quote. Vlad looked a little unwilling. "Well said, Frankie." In the back, in the jungle, two men came out. A blond man in a black suit with a cigarette in his mouth said solemnly, "Well said." But it's hard to imagine. Beside the blond man, the green algae head with 3 knives pinned to his waist laughed. "A man like you would come back from the New World to find someone on purpose." Oh tilde, it's a familiar face again. Vlad sighed that the two people who came over would not be unfamiliar faces. It was precisely because they broke into the top war before that they also had a high reward for the swordsman of the Straw Hat Pirates, the pirate hunter Zoro, and the Straw Hat. The chef of the pirates, Sanji Kurozu. "It's been a long time." The blonde-haired Sanji gave Vlad a grateful smile. "Mr. Vlad." Well, I haven't seen you for a while. Vlad twitched the corners of his mouth. So, Mr. Frankie, that means you have to ask the Straw Hat's permission to help me, right? I am one. Frankie nodded and emphasized, pirates. Understood. Vlad nodded. That's right, but... Hey. Vlad turned his head and looked into the depths of the jungle. Then it's time. Mr. Rayleigh. Ha ha ha, it's really scary, I can't hide it from you. The branch in front of him was pulled away, and the old man showed his face from behind. Young people today are really scary. Come Les. Vlad smiled. Mr. Rayleigh, didn't you find me as soon as I came to this island? It can't be done. Rayleigh laughed. The island is a little too close to Mariajoy to be a little vigilant. Understand. Vlad nodded. Ah, it's you, transformed into a dragon. Behind Rayleigh, a surprised man's voice came. Why did you come back here? Be polite, Luffy. Rayleigh stepped aside, revealing the straw hat behind him. As little brother Vlad, the benefactor who saved you. Huh, yes, oh. The straw hat came back to his senses and bowed heavily towards Vlad. Thank you so much. I didn't have the opportunity to say it myself, thank you so much. It's good to save Nami and the others from the big prison, or the help in the war, really, thank you very much. Transformed into a dragon. If you don't add those 3 words at the end, I'll probably happily accept it. Vlad's mouth twitched. This guy. No need to say thank you. Vlad said casually, but here's one thing I need your help with. Huh, me? The straw hat raised his head in surprise, a little confused. Yes, it's you, or rather, you must be. Vlad smiled. I have something on my side and I need Mr. Frankie's help, and Mr. Frankie is already your partner. His behavior needs your permission. Straw Hat, this is what I want to ask you to do. Quote. Frankie. The Straw Hat blinked, looking a little confused, and then, the man's expression suddenly changed. Are you trying to snatch Frankie? Although he looks like a good guy, he's actually a bad guy. The Straw Hat took a step forward. His arm was already thrown backwards, and when he caught this elastic force, it was an earth-shattering punch. Look at me blowing you up. Hey, weren't you still thankful just now? Are you turning your face when you say turning your face? You guy. Vlad stared at the dead fish, and if a word is wrong, he will act. In fact, it's the darkest one. Chapter 666, The World of the Strong. Calm down, Luffy. Behind the Straw Hat, Pluto Rayleigh laughed dumbly, and directly grabbed the Straw Hat's extended arm. Little brother Vlad is not an enemy now. Yeah. The Straw Hat exclaimed, and the body bounced off under the action of the elastic force, bouncing left and right on Rayleigh's hands. Isn't it the enemy? Straw Hat looked a little surprised, but he wants to take Frankie away. No one ever said such a thing. The 3 swordsmen grinned. How the hell did you hear that? It's a help. Vlad was speechless. I want to build a network covering sea trains on my site, so I need Mr. Frank's help, and I won't rob a man if I rob someone or something. Oh, hee, that's it. The Straw Hat laughed and put his hand on the straw hat on his head, looking very happy. Scare me. I thought you were going to take Frankie away. I'm so sorry. A Straw Hat bowed. Quote. Not knowing what to say at this time, Vlad twitched the corners of his mouth. This Straw Hat boy really doesn't know what to say. In daily mode, he is a silly little devil. It's nothing. Protecting one's partner is undoubtedly the most important thing a captain should do. Vlad appreciates this. Right. He. Straw Hat smiled. You really are a good guy. So, Straw Hat. Vlad said, can Frankie do me a favor? Frankie. Straw Hat turned his head to one side and smiled. Do what you want to do. Yo. Tears welled up in Frankie's eyes. The man seemed to have overdeveloped lacrimal glands. Both of them are super. When the 2 hands slammed together heavily, and Frankie the Iron Man assumed his classic pose, manly man. So, come and help me. Vlad smiled. Mr. Frankie, you are really good at things like sea trains. Besides, that guy Vegapunk is also on my side. If you are interested, you can learn both hands from him. Vegapunk. Straw Hat tilted his head. Who is it? Idiot, Vegapunk. A cigarette in his mouth, Sanji's eyes suddenly widened. Vegapunk, the world's #1 scientist. The man who is said to have a technological level that is 500 years ahead of the world. Wow, it's amazing. Straw Hat looked surprised. Is such a powerful guy your partner? That's right. Vlad was a little smug at the look of the Straw Hat worship. But it's me who will be the One Piece King of Pirates. The Straw Hat pouted. You bastard. Vlad's mouth twitched. Let me go, Luffy. Frankie said solemnly, I can't see any progress in hockey's practice in a short time. Perhaps, I can help you in other ways. Go ahead then, Frankie, if that's your decision. The Straw Hat hand pressed the straw hat on his head and said with a smile, however, you are my partner, remember this for me. But, tears began to flicker in Straw Hat's eyes. Give it to me, come back soon. Whoa 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 whoa. The man named Frankie began to cry again. It was really exciting to be recognized and trusted by others. Hey, it's not life and death. What are you crying about? Vlad's eyes twitched. I just asked Frankie to do the design of the sea train. He doesn't need to participate in the construction himself. How long can it take? Then, so be it. Vlad said, Mr. Frankie, pack up and come with me. We have to go to the water capital. Oh. Frankie wiped his tears and replied. Wait a minute, little brother Vlad. Just as Vlad was about to leave, Rayleigh suddenly spoke. Well. Vlad looked surprised. What's wrong, Mr. Rayleigh, is there anything else? Can I have a fight with Luffy? Rayleigh said so. Huh. Vlad was taken aback. Me, and the Straw Hat. Mr. Rayleigh, are you kidding me? No. Rayleigh shook his head. Actually, these hairy boys have reached a bottleneck in their cultivation. It's time for them to experience the world's top power. Hey, haven't you seen this in the Top War? Vlad said casually, isn't it enough? The top monsters take turns. Of course there is a difference between watching and going off in person. Rayleigh said, I think they need to see the world of the strong. Oh. Vlad nodded and thought about it carefully. For some strange reason, the Straw Hats who would have played against Kuzan missed Kuzan and Kizaru of Sabayati Archipelago, and because he was an executioner himself, the Straw Hats were gone. There should have been a chance to play against the three Admiral in turn. Thinking of it this way, these guys really never had the chance to play against the top monsters in the world. Well then. Vlad nodded, come on then. I'm short on time, just 1 minute. Is that enough? Enough. Rayleigh nodded, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, let's go together. The man in front of him is already the top pirate in the world. 1 minute. Straw Hat hesitated, can you only play for a minute? No. Zoro smiled and put the hood on his head, he means, get rid of us in a minute. Hey, too arrogant, transformed into a dragon. Straw Hat was furious, don't think I'm as weak as the last time I fought. Try it. Vlad smiled. Although it was kind to us. Zoro has a knife in his mouth, 2 knives in his hand, and an excited smile on his face, but, since it's going to fight, I won't show mercy. Be merciful. Vlad's mouth twitched, please, who do you think I am? It's the most troublesome thing to want to step on ants but not kill them. Second gear. The Straw Hat was no longer talking nonsense, his eyes condensed, and the steam spread. 3 swords, profound truth. Devil's foot. Oh, it's so alive. Vlad smiled leisurely, then, since you have also made a move, I can't be idle either. 1. A low sound. Bang. 2. Bang. 3. Bang. Woo. Vlad clapped his palms. Done. Not a minute. A little bit more. Not far away, Rayleigh was smiling. Ha, that's fine, fine. Vlad shook his fist. The three guys' heads were still quite iron, and their eyes turned to one side. Let's go. Mr. French. Oh tilde oh. Frankie, who was still a little stunned at first, replied. On the ground, in front of Vlad, three large pits appeared, and the heads of the three men were deeply buried in the ground. Chapter 667 The Magic of Flame. Nami is lighter. It hurts a lot. The man whose head was wrapped like a mummy cried out in pain. Damn, I want Miss Nami to bandage me too. Opposite, the same mummy said angrily. But I'm the doctor, Sanji. The petite reindeer protested loudly. Damn, did it turn out to be an instant kill? The man with three swords in his arms looked a little unwilling. That's not surprising at all. Holding a book in her hand, the elegant black-haired woman smiled and said, after all, the opponent is that fire dragon, Ferdinando Vlad. He is one of the new 4 emperors. 4 emperors. The orange-haired woman holding a bandage in her hand to wrap up her own stupid captain exclaimed, isn't that the emperor of the sea in the New World? The most powerful pirate, so young and so powerful. Well, yeah. Rayleigh, who was sitting on a tree stump not far away drinking wine, laughed. Young bro Vlad is amazing. The first time we met was almost 3 years ago, right? Haha, I caught that Shiki. Quote. This guy is the 4th emperor. Straw Hat looked surprised. No wonder it's so powerful. Ah, it hurts. Nami, take it easy. Hold on. So, really, Mr. Rayleigh? Nami, who had wrapped the straw hat, asked Rayleigh with some dissatisfaction, why let them fight against such an opponent? Ha 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 ha, this is necessary. Rayleigh smiled. Recognize the world, understand the world, a man will learn to grow. Cut. I won't lose again next time. The straw hat said so. It's me who's going to be One Piece king of pirates. That dragon bastard, I'm going to beat him. Ha ha ha, that's not an easy thing. Rayleigh nodded. However, now that we have such determination, the next training will not be so easy. Let the horses come here. Seeing an unprecedentedly powerful enemy, the incomparably vigorous flame began to burn in the heart of the straw hat. Dash 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 dash. On the other side, Vlad brought Frankie an iceberg, who had just brought over from the 7 waters, back to his own territory, which belonged to the kingdom of fire dragons. Okay, please, the 2 of you. A huge room. Vlad looked at the 2 professionals in front of him. You already know the situation on my side, right? The construction of the sea train network is indeed very important to us. Quote. Centered on Thassa Island, the home of the dragon pirates, the dozens of islands in the surrounding waters are now the pilots of Vlad's industrial revolution, and connecting these places is really a very important one. Step. Vlad wants to truly integrate these dozen islands, more than a dozen countries and numerous towns. To achieve true integration, spiritual integration is required. This purpose depends on the development of Vlad afterward. The media structure and follow-up, means, and dissemination of the same values, and when everyone has the same cultural identity, even if they are not originally a country, they will gradually become full of identity with each other. At the same time, the connection in space is absolutely essential, so Vlad integrates many countries and towns. War is impossible under his influence, but friction will never be less, but communication is also inevitable. The sea train will merge to the limit, and the many islands that cannot continue to expand because the seawater is too deep are connected together, which is really an important means of connecting the space. Whether it's manpower or resources. Vlad looked arrogant and dry. As much as I want one thing, too, the fastest, most stable, strongest and most invincible sea train. What I want is this kind of thing. Oh, leave it to me. Frankie tapped his hand on his chest and laughed loudly, although it's not really necessary. If you add this guy, the progress will indeed be faster. The guy he was referring to was Iceberg, who was the mayor of the Seven Waters city. He is now alone because of the Ennie's lobby incident. He was working leisurely at the shipyard, and this time he was also brought over by Vladra. "Hey, Frankie." Iceberg rubbed his forehead, looking rather speechless. "Are you looking down on me?" "Hey, what a great relationship." Vlad smiled, as expected of a fellow apprentice. "By the way, this thing is a steam engine made by Vegapunk himself." Vlad kicked the machine next to him and said casually, "Look at it. It's definitely more efficient than the steam engine on the sea train that you put on the Seven Waters." "This is..." Eyes began to glow, and Frankie crouched on the ground with the ice, beginning to mask this one Vegapunk masterpiece. Vegapunk's work. Amazing. It's really not a work of an era. Admiration came from their mouths. That's right. Vlad clapped his palms and suddenly remembered what it looked like. Does a steam engine need coal? Of course. Iceberg looked surprised. But the trouble is. Vlad smiled, we don't produce coal here, but... Woo. The wind was howling, and a huge dragon man had appeared in front of Frankie Iceberg. He was extremely tall and mighty. It's not easy to buy coal. After all, everyone knows the limitations of the sea. This may be one of the reasons why steam engines cannot be popularized. Not all islands produce coal. Perhaps most of the islands do not produce coal. The world is divided, and the number is difficult to estimate. The islands together make up the world, and in this case, the problem of transportation is equally difficult. So, I wonder if we can find another way. Vlad grinned, spread out his right hand, and the flame surged out, and then instantly condensed, and a flaming masonry was fused in Vlad's hand. You said. Crack. Gently throwing the fire brick on the ground, Vlad smiled, can this thing be used as coal? The main operating principle of the steam engine is that the water boils to generate steam by heating, and the steam generates strong power through high pressure, so as to drag the piston to do work, and the power comes from this. The role of fuels such as coal is to heat the water through the boiler, so that the water boils. As far as heating is concerned, this fire brick made by Vlad is quite interesting. It is made by Vlad, and the temperature can reach thousands of degrees. Of course, heating water is a piece of cake. More interesting is that, just like the fluttering fruit, as long as the golden lion doesn't faint, the island can keep flying in the sky. The solidified fire brick can always exist as long as Vlad doesn't lose consciousness, exuding a frightening high temperature. That is to say, only one fire brick is needed, and as long as Vlad lowers the temperature a little, it can be abolished with a steam engine, and Vlad will be moved by himself. Clean, efficient, low-cost energy. Vlad always thought that he was a chef, but he didn't think that he would be fine. After all, this kind of thing, as long as Vlad wanted, as much as he wanted. Chapter 668. One of the first sightings of Mr. Kuzan's Fire Dragon Kingdom. Whoa! The huge sea ship slowly docked. This is the port of Longya Island, one of the 3 major islands in the country of fire dragons. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Alas, really. The man with a tall penguin behind him slowly got off the big boat, looking a little surprised. It's amazing. Was such a huge island actually made by the fire dragon? On the boat, someone had already heard what the man named Vlad had done half a year ago. It is an astonishing practice to aggregate hundreds of islands into more than 20 islands. A man named Kuzan came to Longya Island. The port is huge, the throughput of ships is amazing, and the number of ships is now coming in and out here, and goods are loaded and unloaded here. Is this really the result of just half a year? Kuzan stood on the shore with a look of amazement. What the hell did that fire dragon do? However, it's really a bustling scene. Although it is very shocking what the fire dragon has done, the prosperity of this port is absolutely unquestionable. As Marine's predecessor admiral, even so, he has never seen such a lush port. Ha 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 ha, it's really amazing, right? Beside Kuzan, a certain uncle laughed loudly. When I first came here, it was still a piece of white land. A prosperous port has been built here in a month. Oh. Kuzan was surprised again. Such a huge port has only been used for a month. Has the fire dragon guy hung up? No way, it's only been a month. Look over there. The uncle pointed at him. Huh. Kuzan turned his head. Not far away, there was a wasteland. It looked like it was under construction. The busy villain was working hard. He lifted the boulder easily and smashed the land with one punch. That is. Kuzan's eyes widened. Robot. There is no mistake, those who are working hard to build are some white robots, whose speed is outrageous, and their strength far exceeds that of ordinary people. Ha ha ha, how's it going? You must have been shocked. Uncle laughed and said, I had the same reaction as you before. Although it is unbelievable, those guys are the construction workers of the Fire Dragon Pirates. All day long, continuous work, the strength is far beyond ordinary people, and the construction speed is incredibly fast. What an incredible construction worker. Construction worker. Kuzan put his hands in his pockets, afraid that he could immediately go to the battlefield by putting down his construction tools. Strange as it sounds, these robots don't seem to need a human at all, he said. The uncle said strangely, I can work until the construction is completed, and finally evacuate. It's amazing. Don't need a command. Kuzan laughed. Really? That's amazing. Ha ha ha, yes. Uncle nodded. This country is really amazing, isn't it? The kingdom. Kuzan was a little surprised. Now. Uncle said, everyone calls this sea area like that. This is the kingdom of fire dragons. That's it. Kuzan nodded. Look at you, are you a businessman? Come here to do business. Yes. The uncle nodded with a wry smile. Compared with the products of the Fire Dragon Kingdom, our country's products are just like the defective products picked up from the garbage heap. Both the quality and the price are an overwhelming disadvantage. However, come by yourself. It's still profitable to sell it. That's it. Kuzan looked a little emotional. But it's amazing. Uncle exclaimed, the factories here. One factory can produce nearly a year's production of similar products in our country in one day. If this goes on, maybe the whole world will become the treasury of fire dragons. That's a terrible consequence. Kuzan said casually. Ha ha ha, but these are all things that big people should worry about. Uncle laughed. Guys like us, just drive the merchant ship and follow the fire dragon to eat some leftovers. Ah la la, this kind of mentality is amazing. Kuzan laughed. Ha ha ha, I really can talk, I just can't do anything. The uncle smiled. A loud, high-pitched voice came from a distance. Wow. A huge white wave roared through the sky. What's that? Kuzan was stunned for a moment, and he took out his hand from his pocket subconsciously. Is it a tsunami? Ha ha ha, are you surprised? The uncle laughed. Don't be afraid, that is also a special product of the Fire Dragon Kingdom. Really? Kuzan smiled. What a shame. You look like a stranger who doesn't understand anything. It was the effort of these two sentences that the huge white waves had already swept through, whizzing past the port like a giant dragon. That is, with this effort, Kuzan had already seen clearly what it was. Sea train. Kuzan wondered, is that the sea train? Well, the sea train. Uncle nodded, it was just put into use last month. At present, only this line around all the islands has been opened. It is said that there will be a dedicated line between every two islands in the future. But is the sea train so fast? Kuzan wondered. The speed of the sea train just now had already stunned him. How fast? A terrifying speed like the swift and fast speed. Well, I don't know, maybe this is Vegapunk's technology. Uncle smiled and said, however, it is said that this train will circle around the Fire Dragon Kingdom in half a day. Half a day. Kuzan was a little surprised. This Dragon Tooth Island is already so huge, and it is conceivable how big the Fire Dragon Kingdom is. Immediately, another huge sound came from a distance, accompanied by the surging sound of strangely low waves. That is. Kuzan's eyes widened again. What was it that appeared on the sea in the distance? What is it? Is it a moving island? Oh, Today is the day to return to the voyage. But he looked very calm, although I have seen it many times. Every time I see this thing again, I will feel my heartfelt admiration. That is, what? Kuzan asked, is it an island? Ha ha ha, it looks like that in terms of size, but... The uncle blinked. Actually, it's a ship. The only island ship in the Fire Dragon Kingdom. It travels between the Fire Dragon Kingdom and Gulen Tessero, and transports the products produced in this place. It is said that the second and third ship's construction has already begun. Ship? Kuzan said in amazement, so big. A boat without a sail yet. Well, this is a steamship. Uncle smiled and said, like the previous sea train, the power source is not the wind, but the steam engine. It is said that a super large steam engine is installed on that ship, which can easily drive such a huge sea ship, and at the same time can provide strong power the speed of the super steam engine. Hey, no. Kuzan twitched the corners of his mouth. Is such a steam engine really practical? Quite simply, how much energy does it take to drive such a huge ship? How can it be possible to evaporate such a huge amount of seawater to generate such amazing power? I don't know, haha. The uncle of the businessman laughed. Maybe this is also Vegapunk's technology. Chapter 669 Mr. Kuzan's First Glimpse of the Fire Dragon Kingdom Part 2. Separated from the uncle of the businessman who was busy buying goods, Mr. Kuzan, who came to travel, came to a certain restaurant because he was a little hungry. This is a port city, very prosperous. People come and go, and merchant ships from all over bring many the merchants from, and all kinds of goods gather here. This port, which has no name yet, has now surpassed the prosperity of the capitals of the most prosperous kingdoms on the island. However, Kuzan knew that he had heard the uncle say that half a year ago, this place was still empty and there was no wasteland. On the land, it's an astonishing change. If that's what you call change. Kuzan sat on the chair and looked out of the window, where there was a noisy crowd. Then it really surprised me. Fire Dragon. Rolling. Sitting next to Kuzan, the penguin named Camel shouted, it is also very hungry, and there is nothing in its stomach to feel uncomfortable, which is a characteristic shared by all animals in the world. Oh, all right. Kuzan scratched his head. Waiter, menu. Come on, sir. The smiling waiter had done enough, and held a menu in his hand and handed it to Kuzan. Oh. Kuzan Vivi looked a little surprised. It's so cheap. Little brother, your decoration here looks good too. Well. The waiter also looked distressed. Is it the first time for a guest to come here? It's no wonder you don't know, because of the high-quality plant seeds and excellent special breeding creatures provided by the Fire Dragon Pirates, the ingredients have flooded our place. Now, even if you want to be expensive, it can't be expensive. Oh. Kuzan wondered, seed, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, it's very good. Now the same land can get 10 times as much as before. Waiter smiled bitterly and said, although this is very good, there are no hungry people anymore, but the prices of all kinds of grains have also begun to plummet, and they can't be sold locally at all, and can only be sold overseas. Moreover, the waiter's voice suddenly whispered, the food that goes out to sea is purchased by the royal family and sold for takeaway. Low income and high sales, coupled with the rampant phenomenon of concurrent land. The phenomenon is that many farmers go bankrupt, only to be able to sell land to go to cities, to factories, alas. The waiter brother looked very emotional. Neat. Kuzan's expression was a little surprised. This little brother, have you worked in a government organization before? What Kuzan was surprised was not just the proliferation of necessities in the Fire Dragon Kingdom, but also that this little brother was unusual, and such a vision was not something that an ordinary restaurant waiter could say. How can there be? Waiter laughed and said, guest, I'm just an ordinary waiter. No ordinary waiter I've ever seen has such a vision. Kuzan said softly. Are the guests curious about this? That's what. The waiter pointed to the other side, a corner of the restaurant. Please look over there, it's almost time. What? Kuzan turned his head. Beep. With a light sound, a light screen suddenly appeared above the air in the corner pointed by the waiter. That is. Kuzan rolled his eyes and saw, phone bug. Hello everyone, audience. On the screen in the air, an image of a beautiful woman appeared, smiling. Fire Dragon TV welcomes your attention. TV. Kuzan was stunned. Then, let's invite you to spend a wonderful lunchtime in the sound of wonderful music. The woman smiled, and then, the picture suddenly changed. A hall appeared on the screen. A handsome middle-aged uncle was sitting in front of the piano, and in front, a beautiful woman dressed up, standing tall and closed her eyes. Oh, it's Mr. Olaf and Mrs. Anna today. The waiter looked a little surprised. How nice. I'm a big fan of them. It's not. Kuzan recognized the identities of these two people. After all, they were world-renowned big stars, Halleck Olaf, and Helike Anna. How could they be here? The guest doesn't know yet. Waiter smiled. Halleck has joined the Fire Dragon Kingdom. Really? Kuzan nodded. Understandable. After all, that Herrick Serena is one of the core officers of the Fire Dragon Pirates. The wonderful music sounded, Olaf's performance and Anna's voice. Together, it was the most wonderful and unique music in the world. At the same time, the dish ordered by Kuzan had already arrived on the table, and it was the waiter who served the dish. Wow, that looks really good. Kuzan praised, and while he was talking, the penguin beside him had already started to eat. However, little brother, you still didn't answer my question. This word. Waiter smiled, coming soon. Oh. Kuzan raised an eyebrow. Okay, happy music time is over here, next. On the screen, the beautiful woman smiled and said, it's the national commentator program that everyone has been waiting for, welcome to watch it. Beep. With a light sound, the screen suddenly turned, and two men appeared on the screen. It's finally here. The waiter was very happy. This is what I look forward to most every day. Good afternoon everyone in front of the screen. A man with sunglasses on his face and a shiny bald head. I am Cavendish. Beside the bald head, the extremely handsome man directly grabbed the words and said, everyone audience. We meet again. Hey, bastard, it's time for me to talk. The bald man said angrily, and his fist swung directly towards Cavendish. Ha ha ha, Mr. Cavendish and Mr. Eddie are as funny as ever. Waiter laughed loudly, the show works really well. No, I don't think it's the show effect. Kuzan stared at the dead fish, really fighting. Well, let's leave that bald man alone. Cavendish with a blue nose and a swollen face appeared on the screen again, but the man named Eddie did not appear again. Today's national commentator program will still bring you the latest international and domestic situation changes. Cavendish is actually very serious. Look at the domestic side first, within the Fire Dragon Kingdom. Yesterday, on Longi Island, following the factory workers' parade on Longclaw Island a month ago, on Longi Island, workers from 5 factories united and refused to work. It's been a full day so far, and work has come to a standstill at 5 factories. Cavendish laughed. It seems to be a protest against the royal family's pursuit of profit by requiring workers to work overtime all night. Ha ha ha, this is true. Cavendish laughed. Capital is really a fascinating thing. In the past, before big factories appeared, the royal family exploited the people mainly through taxation. Now, the Fire Dragon Pirates and the royal family have a joint venture. After the emergence of the factories dominated by the royal family, this kind of exploitation has been completely different. Now it seems that the royal family, who are known as the guardians of the country, seems to care more about the attractive Bailey than the citizens they want to protect. Ha ha ha. What will happen after that? Cavendish smiled. Let's wait and see. We will continue to report on the follow-up of the Longi Island workers' strike, and then abroad, in Fujitora Ryokugyu too. Are you all right? Kuzan pondered, looking at the indignant waiter next to him and said, can such a program be broadcast directly? Because it's a fire dragon pirates show. Waiter smiled and said, those royal families are supreme in front of us, but they are vulnerable in front of fire dragons. That's it. Kuzan's expression was a little solemn. What exactly are you trying to do? Fire dragon. Deliberately separating the royal family from the people, you bastard. Chapter 670 The beginning of big news. Well, it's really fast. Tassa Island, the center of the Fire Dragon Kingdom, although factories have bloomed on more than 20 islands in the Fire Dragon Kingdom in just half a year, but in fact, only Tassa Island has truly mastered the core technology. That's all, other factories can only import all kinds of machinery from Tassa Island, but they do not have the ability to manufacture processing equipment. Tassa Island does not just refer to an island, but a general term for this island group. The islands on the sea are the places where the Fire Dragon pirates trade with its more than 20 islands. All kinds of materials and equipment are circulated here. In the center of the island, a huge seaway spirals into the sky. Of course, ordinary pirate ships will not be able to go up. However, if you rely on high horsepower steamships, you can still rush to the sky through this section of the seaway. After all, these seawater are all floating in the sky through Vlad's ability, losing the ability to spread. Few people know that there is another island under the sea. If you go down the sea, you can reach this island, a fantastic underwater island, the core secret of the Fire Dragon pirates, and many researchers are in focus on research here. Going up the Sky Sea Road, you can come to many sky islands above the sky. The processing factories of the Fire Dragon pirates are distributed here. Various forms of processing equipment, sea trains, and huge island ships are built in these places. On the top floor, where it hangs above the sea, there is an island, and here is the real residence of the Fire Dragon pirates. At this time, Vlad was leisurely lying on the reclining chair, bathed in the sun, very relaxed. Hey, that's fast enough. Vlad said, there's already a workers' strike and march in such a short time. Enough of these royal families is enough. Who made the interests of those factories so high? Beside Vlad, the lady maid was smoking a cigarette, and said casually, even the royal family who has a very good life can't restrain their inner. Can't reduce the share on our side, then we can only think about it. There are ways to reduce costs, aren't those workers the best option? So say it. Vlad smiled, the primitive accumulation of capital is bloody and cruel. So I have absolutely no idea what you're doing, Captain. Maid asked, what have we been doing for so long? Isn't our goal One Piece, King of Pirates? Has the recent actions helped our goal even a little bit? Well, as I said, my purpose is to be One Piece, King of Pirates, but... Vlad smiled, on the way, if you change the world by the way. Isn't it interesting? So, does this count as changing the world? The maid frowned. Look, maid. Vlad smiled, our current country will inevitably turn into a hurricane. Thought, it is the most terrible weapon in the world. Huh. The maid was a little confused with a cigarette in her mouth. Hey, ha 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 ha, look. Vlad smiled, whether it be a god or a devil, no one should stand in the sky. It doesn't matter if you stand or not. Crackling. With a flash of lightning, the man incarnated by thunder and lightning has appeared in front of Vlad with a smile on his face. Captain, that guy finally has news. Huh. Vlad was taken aback, what guy? That's the guy. With a playful smile on Enel's face, the newspaper in his hand was placed in front of Vlad, this guy. Yeah. Vlad opened his eyes, and then saw the head of the somewhat stupid man on the newspaper. Yeah, it finally appeared. I thought this guy was dead. After disappearing for so long, did he finally show up? The guy on the newspaper is of course none other than the guy wanted by the Fire Dragon pirates, the man who attacked Enel before and then ran away, calling himself Whitebeard's son, known as White too, and a man named Warwick. However, Captain, maybe this guy is really scared by us, not necessarily. Enel laughed, yeah ha ha ha, gone to paradise, and, now. The newspaper unfolded further, revealing the deliberately bold font inside. Vlad's eyes widened. This guy is already Shichibukai. Enel smiled. Yeah, haha. Although he looks like a rough guy, he seems timid beyond imagination. It's not him who is timid. Vlad then threw the newspaper in his hand aside and said casually, It's like you said, that guy Baitu has no brains at all, but his mother is not a fool. However, Shichibukai. Vlad frowned. It's a little troublesome. Did it still follow the original story? Hey, it's really annoying. Are you expecting the government to deter us? Ha. It's so naive, can't it? Enel was afraid that the world would not be in chaos, Captain. Just go and kill that guy. Well, the problem is, we still don't know the whereabouts of that guy. Vlad glanced at Enel and jokingly said, Is our Mr. God going to personally go to the world government and have the Gorosei, 5 elders tell you about Wabel's whereabouts? Cut. Enel snorted coldly. However, Vlad raised his head and looked at the sky. Is Edward Wabel the new Shichibukai? Really? What's wrong? The maid looked curious. Captain. What's wrong? Ah, nothing, I'm nothing. Vlad said casually, but, there is an old man. I'm going to be angry. Dash 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 dash. The location is the new Marine headquarters, New Marineford, the last stronghold of justice. Oh, Akainu. Holding a teacup in his hand, the man leaning on the sofa lazily said softly, Where are you going? Opposite him, a man with a very heavy expression on his face casually draped the cloak of justice behind his back, with a cigar in his mouth, puffing clouds. Damn it. I'm going to Mariajoy. Some people should give me an explanation. Oh, is it about little Whitebeard? Kazaru, who was sitting on the sofa, nodded. It really scared me. That guy who was being chased by fire dragons not long ago has suddenly become Shichibukai. However, it won't work, will it? Akainu. Kazaru said, Even if you meet the Gorosei, 5 elders in the past, the government's decision will not change. Stop talking nonsense. Akainu pushed open the office door, slammed the door. Some things must be done. Ah, really, I know it won't help, but my temper hasn't subsided at all with the promotion of the official position. Kazaru took a sip of tea leisurely. However, what will happen? Mr. Zephyr. Chapter 671Z. Akainu, you bastard. Location is Mariajoy, the seat of the highest power in the world government where the Gorosei, 5 elders never left, and between the powers, the Marshal of Marine Headquarters, Akainu is now being censured by the 5 Gorosei, 5 elders. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Some of the bald and bearded Gorosei, 5 elders exclaimed, What are you doing for food? If you can't be a marshal, then someone else will be. That's what I want to say. Even in the face of the highest power in the world, the man named Akainu is still not afraid at all. The irritable character brought by magma fruit has penetrated into his soul. This is a man who is only pious in his own justice. Cigar in his mouth, Akainu's voice was impatient. In the end, it was you who provoked this matter, right? Akainu's voice was very unpleasant. As I said last time, Edward Wabel's idiot joining Shichibukai is definitely a stupid idea. But you adults are insistent, so now something happens, you have to blame me, the marshal. Is the regulation lax? Stop ranting on me, Akainu. The bearded Gorosei, 5 elders scolded, isn't the defeat of the top war not enough? Marine is not omnipotent. In order to maintain the government, it is imperative to absorb forces from all sides. Where in the world does this kind of truth come from? Akainu said loudly, do you have to rely on the power of pirates in order to maintain justice? Marine's face has been disgraced. Gorosei, 5 elders, after all, the Shichibukai system is nothing but a hindrance to Marine. What do you think Marine is? Akainu. Bald Gorosei, 5 elders exclaimed, Marine is just a part of the government. It's your duty as a marshal to follow the government's decisions. But please don't always make some unclear and messy decisions. Akainu bluntly said, like Wable before. You bastard. Bald Gorose, 5 elders brow with blue veins, you know what you're talking about. Are you questioning our decisions? Questioning the highest power in the world? Okay, shut up. The long-bearded Gorose, 5 elders couldn't stand it any longer, and said loudly, what else do you think? Are the pirates scolding each other? Please pay attention to your identity. Isn't the purpose of our meeting to discuss that guy Zephyr? Don't run off topic. Too far. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders looked around and said solemnly, don't shirk responsibility at this time. This is indeed a big event that is enough to shake the government's prestige. Kuzan before. The blonde-haired Gorose, 5 elders said solemnly, now it's Zephyr again. 2 guys who have had a profound influence on Marine have quit Marine one after another, especially the guy Zephyr. What exactly does he mean to Marine? I won't say you guys know. How will the world see it? What will the soldiers below see? Don't let them say. Marine is over, and even the admirals have lost their confidence. Don't worry about that. Akainu spit out a smoke ring. Fujitora Ryokugyu has already been dispatched. Since the departure of the older generation of admiral will bring criticism, then let the new guy show his strength. Very good. Gorose, 5 elders with the knife in their arms nodded and said, those 2 have enough strength to show the world, the strength of Marine, the majesty of government. Enough to make those whispers vanish. So, what about Zephyr? The bearded Gorose, 5 elders inquired. This guy didn't leave alone than that bastard Kuzan, he took the entire pirate guerrilla. No one knows what he wants to do. Who cares what that stubborn, dying old man wants to do? Akainu said unhappily. Stop talking nonsense. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders said solemnly, unlike Kuzan, Zephyr left with a lot of anger. You know what that means. Let him be angry if he is angry. That damn old man, but... Akainu took a deep puff of smoke, and a large smoke ring blew out of his mouth. If he does something against justice, then... Remember your words. Akainu. Bald Gorose, 5 elders said solemnly, don't screw me up this time. That's what I wanted to say. Akainu tilted his head, stop doing something that violates justice and makes no sense. At the same time, the big event in Marine could no longer be suppressed. The white news bird flew high in the sky, spreading the news that was destined to shock the whole world. Everyone's eyes were shocked. Since Marine Admiral Kuzan quit Marine not long ago, another Marine executive quit Marine. Kuzan, his status is not inferior, or even higher, because this man's name is Zephyr, Black Arm Zephyr, the previous generation Marine Admiral, and the Marine who fought for life and death with One Piece, King of Pirates Roger in the previous era according to legend, the man who has been fighting at the forefront of justice. Even the man who is called the father of Marine is not an exaggeration at all. 99% of the current Marine executives are his disciples, including the current Marine Marshal, Akainu. Akainu was also trained under Zephyr. But it is such a man, the old man who built Marine's prosperity with his own hands, but now he has announced his retirement from Marine, the righteous army he has fought for his whole life. The whole world lost its voice. Ms. Zephyr. The huge warship cuts through the sea, and the giant warship that symbolizes justice is always full of vigor. However, today, the Marine's seagull flag is not hanging on this warship, but it is turned upside down, and a sharp sword runs through it. Yes, Neo Marine. The blue-haired woman was now on the bow, and she said worriedly, Mr. Zephyr. Zephyr is dead. Ain. In front of Ain, tall, with a robotic arm on his right arm, purple hair standing upside down, a man with sunglasses said solemnly, my name is Z. Yes. Ain looked a little worried. After learning that Edward Wable joined Shichibukai, teacher Zephyr also went to Gorose, 5 elders, but in the end, he returned from Mariajoy with incomparable anger, little Whitebeard. The battle strength of her can be seen in several years of incidents, although the result of that incident was that Binns was the only companion on the ship with her, and Teacher Zephyr also lost a right hand. Such a force is willing to join the government, and the Gorosei 5 elders are certainly not willing to refuse, even if such a decision would make Teacher Zephyr angry. Let's go, Ain. Zephyr, no, Z stood on the bow and shouted. But, Mr. Z. Ain looked worried, is it too anxious? Now I'm not coughing, coughing. After a cough, a flush flashed across Z's face. I don't have much time. Ain. Z said so. Yes. Tears rolled in the woman's eyes. After the war, Mr. Zephyr, who was already in poor health, was seriously injured, and his health was even worse than before. Teacher Z. Chapter 672 Dinah Rock. Blue. Quote. Click. Vlad lazily picked up the phone bug that was on the side, and said casually, "This is Fire Dragon Vlad." "It's me, Vlad." There was a sharp man's voice on the other end of the phone, very proud, "It's me." "Oh." Vlad sat up from the reclining chair, his expression gradually becoming serious. "Morgans. Since you called, does that mean?" The guy on the other end of the phone is none other than the world's newspaper industry giant, the president of the World News and Economic News, Big News Morgans, a big bird who is afraid that the world will not be in chaos. Only after Vlad's war on the ground, Vlad's good friend, Emperor Going, Guild Tessero's life is not better than before, although there is Vlad's deterrence in the New World, and no one comes to him to trouble, but in fact, the painstaking efforts to manage and Tenryubido's relationship network is now over. Gorosei 5 elders are not fools, who will watch the 4 emperors, allies still be able to influence Tenryubido. Therefore, Vlad's source of intelligence has largely been replaced by Morgan's, the world's largest paparazzi. Of course, the source of intelligence in his hands is extremely amazing. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Vlad and him are old acquaintances. Of course, Vlad in the past was just an unremarkable guy in the Charlotte family, and his relationship with Morgans was a nodding acquaintance, but now it is different. Now that he is one of the strongest pirates in the world, Morgans is very optimistic about Vlad, so the cooperative relationship between the two has been reached. Morgans is willing to provide information to Vlad, and Vlad wants to. What it does is to keep creating big news. I have to say that such a request is too simple for Vlad. Every action of the 4 emperors will be big news that can shake the world. Yes. Morgans smiled, I found it. He, that's funny. That man, Zephyr, no, he should be called Z now. He's already heading somewhere. Morgan's voice sounded a little high. Vlad knew it well, and the man had smelled the big news again. Hey, the target, it seems to be that Dinah Rock. That's it. Vlad stood up with a sluggish expression on his face. Is that so? Is that the target? What a restless old man. Hey, so what? Morgans laughed and said, lest the world be in chaos. Vlad, what are you going to do? Well, the target is Dynamite Rock. This is troublesome. Vlad smiled. Anyway, I want to see that old man. Oh, I know. Morgans smiled. Your father used to be the Marine who was brought out by Zephyr, right? Hey, Vlad, don't you want to include Zephyr with such a relationship? What nonsense. Vlad twitched the corners of his mouth. How can a man who has been fighting for his beliefs all his life shake his beliefs? That old man hates pirates so much. But I think he might need someone right now who can get him back on track. Even at the cost. His life. Hey, I'm looking forward to it. Vlad. The other end of the phone, Morgans smiled recklessly. What are you going to do this time? Then. Woo. Behind, the huge wings stretched out, and Vlad just rushed to the sky in an instant. Look at it well. Dash. Boom. Under the shroud of night, on a certain island, the fierce battle is continuing. The two sides of the battle used to be partners in life and death, but now they have become enemies with swords facing each other. What the hell are you doing? The man with an extremely tall stature, wearing a cloak of justice and holding a machete in his hand had an unbelievable expression on his face, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead, Mr. Zephyr. Opposite him, the extremely majestic old man's expression was extremely serious. He stepped heavily on the ground, and instantly rushed in front of the man. Have I taught you to be distracted when fighting? You bastard! Boom! The heavy mechanical arm slammed heavily on the machete of the same size, and the terrifying force directly made the back of the big knife slammed into him heavily. The tall man was as direct as a shooting star. It was blasted out and rolled on the ground for a while. Teacher Zephyr. There was a sharp pain in the shoulder, and there was now a big gap on the huge machete. When the back of the knife hit the shoulder, it had already cracked the scapula. However, the man still stood up and faced the opposite. The enemy rushed over. Why, Teacher Zephyr! The man roared. The machete in his hand had already slashed directly at Zephyr. Why do such a thing? Why? With a loud roar, the huge mechanical arm has already opened, because this is justice. King dang! With a loud bang, the huge robotic arm had already directly grabbed the man's body. Although this man was also Marine's elite, he was still far from Z. Mr. Zephyr! Man roared, have you fallen too? Boom! The part where the robotic arm grabbed the man exploded in an instant, smashing the bunt, triggering the explosives inside the robotic arm, and an instant burst of amazing power. Hey! The man screamed in agony all his life, and fell heavily into the distance, losing his strength. Boom! He punched open the front door, and Z strode in. This is Marine's arsenal. Falling. Boy. Z finally turned his head. This is justice. Let me figure it out. Marine. It's the fallen. Dash 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 dash. Quick, quick, quick. Standing on the shore, a man named Binns shouted, get everything on board before the marine reinforcements arrive. Be careful, you bastard, all of us are dead when these things see the air. Binns saw a staggering forehead at the foot of a soldier in the distance, and cold sweat instantly covered his forehead. Yes, yes. View, quote. Boom. The yellow laser flickered, and a ship behind it exploded instantly, and the strong impact instantly blasted everyone on board to the sky. What? Z, who was walking this way, was suddenly surprised. Oh, it really scared me. From behind, there was a wretched man's voice. Mr. Zephyr, the target is actually Dinah Rock. Borsellino. Z turned his head with a heavy expression, and then saw a man squatting on a stone in the distance. Akainu is still mad at the office now. Kazaru smiled with an indistinct expression hidden behind his eyes. He really didn't think that the man who was our teacher would attack Marine's arsenal now. Besides, the target is still as dangerous as Dinah Rock. Things, sent me right away. Are you going to stop me? Z to the issue. Then try it out. Chapter 673 Goodbye. Boom. The explosion, the terrifying explosion, the skyrocketing storm and the terrifying temperature were as terrifying as a volcanic eruption. The volcanic ash-like material rushed directly into the stratosphere, even if it was separated by dozens of miles. Amazing sight to see. Ah, it's amazing. Vlad was suspended in the air, looking in amazement. This is Dinah Rock, right? Hey, what a scary thing. If nothing else, this huge movement should have been caused by Dinah Rock. It is said to be a terrifying weapon comparable to ancient weapons. It is really amazing. There is no difference between ordinary rocks and ordinary rocks, but once it comes into contact with the air, it will trigger a violent reaction, and a terrifying explosion will occur in an instant. The island blows up. Vlad really can't figure it out. Obviously there is such a thing. Why the government can hold back, only need to drop a few in the Four Emperors' lair, then except for the Four Emperors themselves, a group of 4 emperors will basically be wiped out. So why just honestly use these things to press the bottom of the box? Is there any secret here? For example, in fact, the government does not want to eliminate the 4 emperors or something. Vlad is unknown for the time being. However, the wings on Vlad's back fluttered violently, and his body was already rushing forward like a phantom in the direction of the explosion, at a speed that was completely invisible to the naked eye. It wasn't until the body passed for a long time that the strong wind blew up. Amazing sight. On the sea below, countless fishes were floating on the sea surface, and they had been completely cooked. In space, the clouds spread, and the clouds formed by the volcanic ash that washed into the sky would float for a long time. Ah! Vlad's observation hockey tried his best to spread. Although it didn't reach the wide range of Enel, Vlad's observation hockey was also very broad. Finally found. After flying on the sea for a long time, Vlad finally found the guy floating on the sea, lying on a sailboard, and was completely unconscious. Landing gently on the windsurfing board, Vlad looked at the man who had lost consciousness. What a miserable appearance! Fred exclaimed. The body is full of scars, and there are several stab wounds. It seems that he has experienced a fierce battle before, and the injury is not light. The man's name was Zephyr, Vlad's father's teacher. Ah! Your eyes, observation hockey spreads out again. Is it over there? Vlad opened his eyes and already felt a huge fleet coming towards this side. It must be the guys who chased after Zephyr's life paper. Hey, let's chat. Vlad smiled, lifted the unconscious Zephyr's wings and flew into the sky. Dash 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 dash. Why hasn't it appeared yet? Standing on the bow, the woman named Ain frowned, gritted her teeth, and looked very worried. Mr. Zephyr. Ain, don't worry too much. Behind Ain, a man named Binz whispered, Mr. Zephyr will be fine. He is, Mr. Zephyr. But Ain didn't turn his head, there was some panic in his voice. The opponent is that Kizaru, even Mr. Zephyr, I'm afraid it's a big explosion like just now. It'll be fine, absolutely nothing. Binz said solemnly, Mr. Zephyr will be fine, he will lead us to our ideal future. Bring long-term peace to this chaotic world of pirates. Damn. Ain suddenly said angrily, in the end, we are too weak. This is all to protect us. If not, if we are strong enough. Yeah, I heard something very reasonable. Above the sky, such a voice suddenly came. What? Ain raised her head in surprise, and then her pupils shrank suddenly. This guy is. Binz was equally astonished, this guy is. Boom. The huge dragon man fell on the deck, and the amazing weight instantly made the sturdy deck feel a little shaken. Crack. Z in his hands still on the ground, Vlad's body quickly retracted, and in the blink of an eye he had turned into a human appearance. This makes sense. Ain, in this troubled world, being weak is the original sin. Isn't this guy? The musket in his hand could no longer be held, and fell directly to the ground. The young soldier's forehead was covered in sweat. No way, isn't such a monster supposed to be in the second half of the New World? Why, one of the 4 emperors will appear here. Of course, Ain and Binz are not the only 2 people on the deck. The soldiers of Neo Marine who followed Zephyr out of Marine are now frightened. One of the 4 most terrifying pirates in the world is now standing on them alive. In front of it, it is really amazing. Mr. Zephyr. These Neo Marine soldiers, Binz first noticed Zephyr lying on the deck. Without any hesitation, he rushed in front of Zephyr and lifted up the man's body, very caring. Like, are you all right, Teacher Zephyr? Well, although death is immortal, but... Vlad smiled, I think I still need a doctor's help. Doctor. As if realizing his mistake, Ain immediately shouted, come here. Doctor. People sailing in the New World, of course, there is no shortage of ship doctors on board. Soon, several doctors in white coats ran over and carried Zephyr away. Then, Ain stood up, turned his head, looked at Vlad, and said solemnly, "Fire dragon, you bastard. What are you doing?" "Do what?" Vlad blinked. "Of course it's for self-preservation." "What?" Ain frowned. "Your goal is to blow up the 3 endpoint islands of the New World with Dyna Rock. Destroy the New World directly." "How do you?" Ain was taken aback for a moment. This was a plan that didn't take long. Why would this guy know about it? "Why no, you don't care, but Ain." Vlad pulled the corner of his mouth. "You are already the enemy of the whole New World. Whether it is the government or the Marine, the pirates or the 4 emperors, you really don't want to live. Do you want to be the enemy of the whole world? It's none of your business." Ain gritted his teeth. "Well, it has nothing to do with me. Please, let you destroy the New World." Vlad said casually, "How can I be One Piece, king of pirates?" "Ain, do you understand? Mr. Zephyr is no longer the original Mr. Zephyr." Vlad said solemnly. The anger has covered his heart, and he can no longer make a correct judgment. "I just follow Teacher Zephyr." Ain said, "That's enough." "Stupid." Vlad scolded. "Don't you understand? Ain, it's you who can save Mr. Zephyr now. Do you want to watch that man go to destruction? Idiot, do you want to watch this happen? Did the man who was a hero all his life end as a villain?" Quote. Ain's eyes widened. "Marine is ready to go. Once you blow up an endpoint, the other 4 emperors won't sit still, understand?" Vlad spread his wings and flew into the sky. "Look at you. Ain, last advice, try to stop Mr. Zephyr. If you can't do it, it's up to me. Use your fist." Chapter 674 Hero. It was late at night, among the huge fleet floating on the sea. On a certain warship, a conversation was going on. X-23 US. Com updates fastest. "Mr. Zephyr, you're awake." Inside the ward, the woman named Ain looked very excited. On the hospital bed in front of her, the man who called himself Z had opened his eyes. "Ain." Z blinked his eyes, and after getting used to the bright light, he said with a smile on the corner of his mouth, "Looks like I'm not dead yet." "Don't say things like that, Mr. Zephyr." Ain wiped his eyes and wiped away the tears in them. "You will not die." "Silly boy." Z smiled. "Who in the world can't die? Birth, old age, sickness and death are the iron rules of this world. Even the world government is starting to die now. Ha 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 ha, I understand it very well, Ain." Z raised his left hand and pressed it on his chest. "I don't have much time, this sea is already rejecting me." "No, Teacher Zephyr." Ain said loudly, "Mr. Zephyr is the hero of this world, and there will never be a sea that will reject you." "A hero." Muttering to himself, Z's eyes gradually firmed up. "Ain, call me Z. The loser named Zephyr is dead." "But..." Ain didn't finish her words. Z's sharp eyes made her unable to continue speaking. She wanted to say could not be said. What she wanted to say was that Teacher Zephyr is not a loser, but a well-deserved hero, at least, for her, a great hero like her father. "What time is it now?" Z barely sat up from the bed. Vivi frowned. The injury from the fight with Kizaru, the injury from the Dyna Rock explosion was no joke. This old, frail, disease-ridden man didn't have the strong physique of his youth. It's only been a few hours since the fight with Kizaru. Ain replied, "It's early morning now." "So soon?" Z was a little surprised. "Didn't Marine pursue him? How could you find me so easily?" "Yes." Ain looked hesitant. "Yes, Fire Dragon." "What?" Z was startled, and the evil spirit in his eyes suddenly burst out. "What did you say?" "Ain. It's the Fire Dragon who saved you." Ain lowered his head and looked a little discouraged. "In the end, they still couldn't do anything," he said before leaving. "Say what?" Z frowned. He said, "Don't go any further." Ain raised his head. "I don't know why. He seems to know our plan. Let us not continue to do it, otherwise, this new world, the government pirates, and the Marine 4 emperors will all be our enemies." "Is that kid actually rescued by pirates?" Z said solemnly, but to be the enemy of the whole new world, isn't this the result that we have known for a long time? We have already made this kind of consciousness, whether it is a dirty pirate or a fallen marine, it is all of us. Enemies of all. They are all enemies of justice. Quote. Mr. Zephyr. Ain was a little uncomfortable. Yes, Z. Z said loudly. Yes, Teacher Z. Ain repeated, the fire dragon said before he left that if I can't stop you, he will do it himself. Do it yourself. Why do you do it? Z's mouth twitched. Are you going to sink the old man into the bottom of the sea? That brat doesn't talk too much. He said. Ain said in a sullen voice, he is the one who will end your hero's life. Neat. Z was taken aback for a moment, then a smile appeared on his face. Then let him come. Sure enough, did it fail? As expected, Ain sighed inwardly, I can't change Teacher Zephyr, S will no matter what, and since that's the case, the only way to go is to follow the teacher's back, right? If you want to hurt the teacher, try it. Fire Dragon. I will do my best to protect the teacher. Ha ha ha, come to end me. Z whispered, then let's try it out. Snods. Dash 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 dash. At the same time. Yeah, I was wondering if I was wrong. From Neomarine's battleship, even in the middle of the night, the bustling scene has not subsided. Vlad was a little hungry. He was originally here for supper, but unexpectedly saw something incredible. Guys out. It turns out it's really you, Mr. Kuzan. Isn't that guy who was sitting at the stall by the sea, enjoying the night view leisurely, not that Kuzan? Oh, brother Fire Dragon. Kuzan turned his head, want to have something to eat together. He was holding a bowl of noodles in his hand, and the penguin beside him was holding a piece of meat. Oh, of course. Vlad bold and grandiose sat beside Kuzan and smiled, of course I won't refuse Mr. Kuzan's treat. Then. Suck, 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 suck. Suck, 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 suck. At the small noodle stall, two of the world's top powerhouses were eating noodles. So, is Mr. Kuzan here for Mr. Zephyr too? After drinking a sip of the noodle soup, Vlad felt warm and comfortable. Ah, of course. Taking a long sigh of relief, Kuzan replied, Mr. Zephyr is making too much trouble this time. Bringing the entire pirate guerrilla team out of Marine, the news has spread all over the sea, everyone is watching Marine's jokes, no one knows what the status of Black Arm Zephyr in Marine is, such an optimist the same man chose to quit Marine. Although the newcomer Admiral Ryokugyu Fujitora has been very active recently, he has destroyed many pirate groups in the New World, once again proving to the world that Marine is powerful, but Zephyr's exit, the blow to Marine is real and visible. Hey, that doesn't count. Vlad smiled, Mr. Kuzan, did you notice the big movement before? Yeah. Kuzan nodded with a stiff expression, could it be Dynamite Rock? Bingo. Vlad snapped his fingers, that's right. Alas. Sighing slowly, Kuzan looked a little helpless, betrayed by the government, the teacher's anger can no longer be suppressed. Yeah, the pissed-off old man has gone completely mad, hey. Vlad smiled, he wants to blow up 3 endpoints with Dyna Rocks. Quote. Kuzan's expression froze for a moment, obviously not expecting Zephyr to want to do this. The endpoint is the 3 islands of the New World, which store a huge amount of magma islands. The magma flow of the New World converges under these 3 islands. If these 3 islands are blown up, the New World will directly turn into a sea of fire. Even the 4 Emperor's pirates will be wiped out in an instant. I'll stop him. Vlad took another breath and said so. Well. Kuzan turned his head in surprise. Well, not at all. Vlad's mouth twitched. Let the hero respected by my father become a demon at the end of his life. Chapter 675 Cooperate. Above the sky, the sun hangs high, exuding scorching heat, and the strong Rolla County shines on the sea unscrupulously, filling the blue sea with a vibrant brilliance. Above the sea, a marine fleet rides the wind and waves, 10 huge warships, each of which is the size of an ordinary sea king, and its size is amazing. 10 such warships are easily wiped out with pure firepower. An island, which belongs to the firepower range of Buster Call. The configuration on this fleet is also extremely luxurious. 10 vice admiral from the headquarters plus an admiral who is the highest combat power of the government. With such combat power, even a war with the 4 emperor pirates will definitely not suffer. But, of course, this fleet was not going to fight the 4 emperors. Marine really had no reason to fight the 4 emperors. The target of this fleet was the pirate guerrillas that were Marine's subordinates. Neo Marine. It's really ironic. He was originally a life and death partner, but now he is a life and death enemy, and the leader of that fleet is the Black Arm Zephyr, the teacher of these marine generals on this marine fleet, leading them. The man who all took the marine road. I have embarked on the road of justice as the teacher expected, but now the teacher has gone backwards on the road of justice. Therefore, the battle is inevitable, just like what the teacher taught in the past. Since it is the enemy, then you must go all out, and never allow water to be released, even if the enemy is the teacher who taught him this truth. Only the justice in the heart is absolutely not allowed to violate. This is what the man taught back then. Since he has decided to deviate from Marine's justice, then Mr. Zephyr must have prepared the consciousness of fighting with Marine, his former disciples and friends. When I did my best, I let go of water because of my past friendship, which is really ugly. Ah, really, how long? Kizaru, wearing a yellow striped suit, said lazily, you can really run. Teacher Zephyr. After all, the other side's warship is the same model as ours. Behind him, Vice Admiral Momonga of the Marine headquarters with a mohawk frowned and said, we came from New Marineford, so it's normal that we can't catch up with them. This large fleet was dispatched in an emergency last night when the Neo-pirates attacked the Marine arsenal, and it is normal that the fleet cannot catch up with Neo-Marine now. Really? Kizaru wore glasses and kept his laziness as usual. Mr. Zephyr really gave us a big surprise. Trouble, he actually got the Dyna Rock. This is a weapon that the government prohibits. The teacher was betrayed by Marine. A cigar in his mouth, the smiling man named Yamakaji said solemnly, I was betrayed by Marine, who had been fighting all his life. Hey, don't talk nonsense, Yamakaji Vice Admiral. Kizaru turned his head and smiled unpredictably. Marine didn't do anything. This is Mr. Zephyr's own decision, what I have to do is just. Well. Kizaru turned his head, looking a little surprised, no way. Whoosh. A sharp sound came from a distance, and a huge red shadow flew directly towards this side. How could such a big man appear here? Kizaru looked a little surprised. That is. At the same time, behind Kizaru, the vice admirals of Marine headquarters also noticed the red shadow flying in the distance. Hey, vice admirals from Marine headquarters, long time no see. The dark red shadow fell heavily on the deck, then shrank abruptly, dodging the sword slashed towards his back by the way, and gently landed on the side of the boat. Yeah, really, is it such a warm welcome? Squatting on the side of the boat, Vlad had a troubled look on his face. Tisk, this is a shock. Withdrawing the knife in his hand, Vice Admiral of the Marine headquarters codenamed Onagumo, the man with the cigar said solemnly, suddenly there is such a monster attacking. Fire Dragon Vlad. Hey, don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong. Vlad waved his hand and said, I'm not here to fight. Yeah, really. Kizaru turned around and said, don't do it, it's about a critical juncture of the battle with Teacher Zephyr. Do you have to fight the Fire Dragon, one of the 4 emperors? I don't have overtime pay. It's all said, bro Kizaru. Vlad smiled, I'm not here to fight. Hey, later, come and explain to me quickly. Vlad shouted so. Well. Kizaru was taken aback, no way. Really? A dark figure suddenly jumped onto the deck from under the side of the ship, and the iconic laughter spread. Everyone said they quit, but now it feels embarrassing to meet again. No way. Mr. Kuzan. With the fire dragon. What the hell is going on here? Hello, Kuzan, is this? Kazaru's tone was rare and solemn. Are you standing on the side of the fire dragon? What a foolish thing to say. Kuzan put his hands in his pockets and said casually, I'm still me. Call. Kazaru put his hand on his chest and looked relieved. It scared me. So, Kuzan, and Brother Fire Dragon. Kazaru's tone was extremely strange. What is the purpose of your coming? For Mr. Zephyr, of course. Vlad smiled. The opinion here is to leave Mr. Zephyr to me to solve it. What? What did you say? Vice admirals are boiling. Is this guy crazy? As the four emperors, shouldn't the thing to do at this moment is to sit on the mountain and watch the tiger fight, watching Marine and Neo-Marine fight happily? Oh, what an unexpected request. Kazaru is also very surprised. So, bro Kazaru. Vlad smiled. I mean, please don't mess with Mr. Zephyr when I'm at war with him. Let me make a break with him. Yeah. Kazaru said. Is it because Mr. Zephyr is the first opponent you met after your debut? So you want to give him a ride yourself? Well, who knows? Vlad grinned, revealing 2 rows of white teeth. But do you want to agree? Brother Kazaru, this is really the best advice for Marine, isn't it? Watching me and Mr. Zephyr fighting to the death. If you mobilize the army directly after I have been exhausted by Mr. Zephyr, you might be able to kill me by the way. Quote. Haha, it's really arrogant. Kazaru smiled. But you're right, Brother Fire Dragon, I really have no reason to refuse such a condition. Then. Vlad smiled, alright. Chapter 676 Attack. The huge warship floated quietly on the sea, and did not continue to going, even the sails had been closed. X-23 US. Com updates fastest. That's it, Akainu. Kazaru lay leisurely on the reclining chair, holding a phone bug in his hand, and reported, I agreed to Fire Dragon's request to let him go and make a break with Teacher Zephyr. You bastard, Borsellino. Angry voice of His Excellency the Marshal of Marine Headquarters on the other end of the phone. That is, have you compromised with the pirates? Use the power of the pirates to solve the enemy. Wow, that's tough, Akainu. Kazaru looked a little scared, right? Kuzan. Don't ask me. Mr. Kuzan, who was lying on the other side, said casually, it has nothing to do with me. What, is that bastard Kuzan over there? Marshal Akainu looked a little surprised, but his tone was the same as always. Borsellino, why didn't you say it just now? Haha, I forgot. Kazaru said perfunctorily, I'm so sorry. You bastard. Akainu seems to be angry every day. Maybe this is the side effect of magma fruit, but forget it, since the fire dragon is going to come in tragically, then even if he is unlucky, Fujitora is nearby, I will call him over immediately. No, it's just Zephyr-sensei, and even the fire dragon, let's solve it together. Oh, as expected of Akainu. Kazaru exclaimed, how cruel and despicable. Stop giving lousy nonsense. Akainu said loudly, just do it honestly. And, Kuzan. Akainu said, you don't get involved in this matter. If you don't want to be an enemy of Marine Era, is Lord Marshal ordering me? Kuzan said lazily, I'm not a Marine now. Just an announcement. Akainu said solemnly. Don't worry. Kuzan said casually, I'm just here to witness the teacher's final outcome. This is the last. Crack. The grumpy His Excellency the Marshal hung up the phone. Really? Kuzan said with a smile, I'm good at being a marshal. Who said no? Kazaru said with a deep sympathy, I'm so envious. Kuzan, I can't take Akainu's anger, but I've been scolded every 3 days. I see that you are not tired of it. Kuzan laughed. How is it possible? Kazaru replied. But Kuzan, why are you with the fire dragon? Era, are you still worried? Don't worry, I'm just. Kuzan said, I just want to see what the fire dragon will do, and, Borsellino, didn't you happen to borrow the fire dragon's hand? You don't want to do it yourself. How is it possible? Kizaru laughed. From the very beginning, my relationship with teacher Zephyr was the worst, and I was the one who was trained the most. Borsellino, long ago, was a problem student. The black night has shrouded the sky, and in the sky, the shining galaxy is extremely bright. Vlad lay leisurely on the shore, looking up at the stars in the sky, in a very calm mood. This is one of the 3 endpoints, which is one of the goals of Neo Marine. Vlad waits here. Vlad didn't want to hurt Mr. Zephyr. The last fight was enough. After all, Mr. Zephyr was a man his father respected, and he was the only person in the world who would still miss that man. Vlad, to be honest, respect this old man very much. But this time, this fight had to be fought. Vlad didn't care about Zephyr's betrayal of Marine. As long as he implemented his own will, it would be the same everywhere. But what Zephyr wants to do is definitely not acceptable to Vlad. He wants to destroy the New World. Although the original intention is to solve the pirates of the New World once and for all, Vlad does not care. But if the price of such destruction were the lives of all the ignorant masses of the New World, Vlad would never accept it. Such a thing should never be something Zephyr can do. This old man has been completely blinded by anger, the anger of being betrayed by Marine, the anger of his own justice being trampled on, and the anger of being unable to avenge his students. Altogether, Zephyr made such a thing. Vlad doesn't allow it. He definitely doesn't allow a man that his father respects, a man that his father respects as a father, to do such an ugly thing. Vlad clearly remembered that long ago, that night, when the man told himself the story of the man named Zephyr in high spirits, the excitement and yearning in his eyes flickered. Vlad will never allow the man who made his father yearn to become this bird. Oh. Vlad sat up, and on the sea ahead, the huge fleet was gradually approaching. Neo Marine has arrived. Then. Vlad smiled, let's say hello first. Call. A huge dark red dragon man has appeared on the shore of the island, and on Vlad's arm, a pure and incomparably white flame has begun to burn. To say hello means. Whoosh. With a slight flick, the long spear made of flames flew towards the distance. Don't come here to kill the miscellaneous fish. Dash 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 dash. On the huge warship, the man now called Z stood on the bow with a struggling expression on his face. The island that had appeared in the dark sea in the distance was his destination this time. The little lights were shining on that island, and the people on the island probably didn't know that this island would soon usher in a disaster, and it would be smashed into the sky because of a man's wish. Quote. Z was silent and his expression was shaken. Do you really want to let these innocent people lose their lives for their own revenge? Z teacher. Behind the scenes, the woman named Ain said worriedly, really? Well. Z looked up suddenly. Boom. Something like a shining beam swept across the sky in an instant, bombarding the sea behind it heavily. The strong temperature spread in an instant, and the storm directly blew the sails of this fleet full, and then, the earth-shattering waves began to sweep. Is it finally here? Z whispered. Z knows who is doing such an iconic trick. Ain told him before that if Ain can't stop him, then that kid will personally come and end his plan. To be honest, if the opponent is that kid, Z is very clear. I am afraid that his plan may not have any chance of success, but, I don't know why I am very happy. I don't know why, but my heart suddenly felt a little happy, as if I had been waiting for such a person to stop me. Come on. Whoosh. The tall body rose into the sky and rushed towards the island in front of him. That's great. Ain, keep your distance. Know who your opponent is. Yes. Ain said loudly, Mr. Z. Chapter 677. What your mouth can't do, use your fists. Yeah. Vlad stood lazily on the beach, his eyes full of fighting spirit. It's finally here. I've been waiting for a long time. Boom. A black shadow fell from the sky and landed heavily on Vlad's back. The solid rocky coast was instantly smashed into a huge hole, and the rock debris flew everywhere, like a meteor falling from the sky. Oh, really? Vlad turned his head and turned sideways gently. With the huge wind noise, the heavy mechanical arm had smashed heavily on his side, like a howitzer bombarding the ground, and the ground was like a moment of foam. The shattering, strong power does not stop there. The shock wave of terror is still spreading outward. Starting with the second, the corner of the island shore was directly blasted into the sky, and even a depression appeared on the sea surface, which has been spreading away. As the reunion after a long time so passionate. Vlad smiled and raised his right hand. Boom. The pitch-black fist slammed directly into Vlad's right palm. Woo. The wind suddenly rose, and Vlad's short hair actually had a feeling of fluttering with the wind. The palm of his hand was numb, and the ground under his feet shattered instantly. It has been directly crushed at this moment. Oh. The arm trembled in vivi, but the undeniable fact was that Vlad really used his human form to block the punch of the man from the previous year. Hey. Gently Isho, the quick whip leg has been pulled out, without even a little thought of respecting the old and caring for the young. Vlad slammed it directly towards Z's head. When Z's combat experience is not unsophisticated, and his response is extremely fast, but he has lifted the huge mechanical arm up in an instant, directly blocking Vlad's blow. When the strong air wave spread, Vlad felt his body softened. After all, this huge mechanical arm was made of sea stone. As an able person, it was a bit embarrassing for him to kick something like this with his feet. But fortunately, this kind of contact was only a moment, and Vlad's foot directly shook the mechanical arm. Even in human form, the power is by no means to be underestimated. Boom. The next moment, two huge fists slammed together, a strong storm spread, and everything on the coast was shaking. Quote. Vlad took 3 steps back, and finally stabilized his body when he almost stepped into the sea. Z, who was his enemy, did the same, and the expression on his face was not good-looking. Yeah, it's really naughty. Vlad smiled without any sign of unhappiness. Mr. Zephyr, attack me if you don't agree with me, it makes me very cold. Does it mean that I have to say hello to you before I attack? Z twitched the corner of his mouth, and said with disdain, stop joking. Kid, do you still need to obey the rules of knights when fighting pirates? As expected of Mr. Zephyr, he hates evil, Vlad smiled. My name is Z, remember it for me, kid. Z said in a low voice. Z, whatever, I think Zephyr is a better name, so. Vlad smiled and said, why do such a thing? Mr. Zephyr, shouldn't this kind of thing be something evil pirates like us should do? Hey, Mr. Zephyr, what you're doing is called choking. Very unprofessional. Quote. It's all for. The eyes under Z's sunglasses couldn't see what it looked like, but the voice was very low, as if the words were squeezed out of the teeth. Build a peaceful world where there are no pirates and people can live and work in peace and contentment. So. Vlad pointed to the back of Z, in the distance of the island, the bustling lights. The price is that these civilians who can live and work in peace and contentment, as well as those in the new world who cannot live and work in peace, sacrifice themselves for such a new world. Life. Haha, if that's the case. Vlad smiled, that's pretty cool, Mr. Zephyr, isn't that a great idea? Quote. Facing the suddenly excited Vlad, Z didn't know what to say for a while. Isn't this a great decision? Vlad smiled. Anyway, most of the countries in the New World are not affiliated countries of the government. Instead, they are just some weeds attached to us and under the command of the 4 emperors. No matter how much weeds are cut, it is actually does it matter. Wouldn't that be great, either for the government or for Marine? Vlad said recklessly, I thought it was wrong before. Mr. Zephyr, go ahead and do it. Woo ha ha ha, the New World has become a sea of fire, and the Marine headquarters will naturally be blasted into the sky. I'm looking forward to this. The site, the last iron fortress of justice, will be shattered in front of the unrivaled might of nature, and the monsters in the four seas and paradise who have shrunk their minions due to the suppression of Marine must also be looking forward to such a sight. Hee hee. Vlad smiled. Isn't this very good? Mr. Zephyr, he not only eliminated the 4 emperors of the New World, but also killed the Marine who betrayed him. Isn't this good? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Hey, so handsome. Ah, Mr. Zephyr, are you Kong Ming? How can you come up with such an excellent plan? Quote. You kid. Z gritted his teeth. Although Vlad looked very adoring, his face full of mockery was really unpleasant, and he felt that his behavior was being watched like a monkey. Ah, me, is Mr. Zephyr caring about me? Vlad waved his hand. You worry too much about this. I have seized Senior Golden Lion's ability. It's not just me who can fly. I can also take them all to fly away from my sight. I'll be fine, of course, although the other 4 emperors will suffer losses. You know, just those monsters. Of course they won't just fall down like this, and of course those who will die in the sea of fire are only those who have no power. Vlad's mouth twitched. It's just civilians and Marine soldiers. It's nothing. It's just that I don't know how many families were reduced to ashes in the flames. I don't know how many wives can't wait for their husbands. I don't know how many children will never see their fathers again, and I don't know how many parents will never see their sons again. It's nothing. Quote. Now that such a plan is in place. Vlad blinked and smiled. Then he must have been prepared for such consequences, right? Mr. Zephyr. You boy. Z lowered his head. Are you going to convince me? No, how could it be possible to change other people's will with my mouth? I don't have such arrogant thoughts. Vlad shook his right fist. It's just that, before the final fist, it's not bad to have a good momentum, right? Chapter 678 The Will in the Fist. Isn't that arrogant? There was sarcasm in Z's voice, but Vlad could vaguely sense that there was a hint of anger in it. Does it mean that things that can't be said by the mouth should be solved with fists? Do you want to said you'd use violence to bring me into submission, kid? Crack. Ground shattered suddenly. Z stepped on the ground heavily, and his body had turned into a phantom like an arrow from the string, and rushed towards Vlad in an instant. Oh oh oh. Vlad screamed, jumped directly over Z's head, and landed gently on the ground. It's scary. Mr. Zephyr, do you want to do something if you don't agree? Isn't that what you expected? Z stopped his body, twisted his body sharply, and the huge mechanical arm was already aimed at Vlad. Hope to use violence to change my mind. Boom. A strong explosion occurred suddenly, and a strong shock wave slammed directly towards Vlad. Then let's try it, kid. Tisk. The flames of the explosion instantly enveloped Vlad. What a grumpy old man. Whoosh. In the smog that filled the sky, Vlad suddenly stood out and landed gently on the ground. His face looked like a waveless well. Such an attack could be perfectly defended with a little hockey. It wasn't a big deal at all. Ha! There was a sudden roar from the sky, and a sturdy figure descended from the sky. The huge mechanical arm on the right arm smashed directly at Vlad's head with the sound of strong wind. Ooh! Vlad sighed in admiration for unknown reasons, and his body subconsciously took a step back, just right to dodge Z's blow, and the ultimate sense of freedom was already activated. Z's stomach with a standard straight punch. Even though he tried his best to endure, the pain still escaped from Z's mouth. His body backed up like a rocket, rolled on the ground for a while, and hit the rocks on the coast heavily. It's all said, don't get me wrong. Vlad didn't mean to chase. The old god was standing there, but his voice spread out loudly. Mr. Zephyr, I don't have any arrogant thoughts of changing the will of others. This is the truth. The will of the heroes galloping on the sea is outrageous one by one, and their mouths are completely useless to them. Even that monkey D. Luffy can't do things. Fra Dicky has no confidence to do such a thing with his sarcastic tone. I am. Vlad smiled. There is only one thing I want to do, and that is, use my fists to break your anger and let you take a good look. Mr. Zephyr, what exactly do you want? If you were alive before then. Whoosh. In the smoke, the black shadow suddenly ejected and rushed towards Vlad. To stop Lao Su's anger. The body suddenly rotated, and the huge mechanical arm suddenly swayed, turned in a circle, and smashed directly towards Vlad's body. Then try it out. Try it. Vlad opened his eyes, and his body suddenly rushed forward like a phantom, directly facing Zephyr's attack. Crack. With a slight jump, as if jumping a pommel horse, Vlad's hands lightly pressed on the huge mechanical arm. Vlad had already passed such an attack, and then... boom. Armament hockey's long legs wrapped in pitch black slammed heavily on his left arm that was also pitch black. Hey! Vlad's eyes were amazed, and the reaction was so fast. As expected of Mr. Zephyr. Come again. Vlad was directly bounced off by the force of the anti-shock. Without the slightest pause, his body bounced out again, and a flying kick blasted directly at Zephyr. When? Unsurprisingly, Vlad's flying kick could only be a futile kick on Zephyr's huge mechanical arm, and his body immediately became weak again. Drink. Zephyr did not miss such an opportunity, stepped forward, his body rotated a circle, and the extremely heavy mechanical arm had already smashed directly at Vlad's body from top to bottom. Tisk. Vlad's helpless hands were on his chest, and the dark hockey wrapped around it. Boom. A huge mechanical arm with amazing strength descended from the sky and slammed heavily on Vlad, slamming him directly into the ground. Ka-la-la-la. The sour sound spread everywhere, and the ground shattered instantly like a spider web, spreading all the way. With just one blow, this piece of ground has sunk in an instant. You kid, don't use your abilities. However, one-hit Zhangongzi was not as happy as he imagined. Instead, his face was full of blue veins, as if he had suffered some unforgivable humiliation. The huge robotic arm was raised high, and he said, "Are you insulting me?" Whoosh. I think too much, just as Z raised the robotic arm, the black shadow shot out from the hole below, plunged directly into Z's arms, and punched directly above Z's chest. Just respect the old and love the young. By the way, I will give you some time to reflect. Don't worry, until you recognize yourself. Vlad smiled, they will all try their best to stop you. Wow. With a scream, blood overflowed from the corner of Z's mouth, but the man had no intention of flinching. He made a fist with his left hand and slammed it into Vlad's head. Vlad was a little dizzy. Boom. Z's attack was not enough to stop Vlad's continued attack. With a twist of his body, hockey was wrapped around him, and a strong whip leg slammed directly into Z's ribs, directly blasting the man out. Bah! Shaking his head, Vlad spit out a mouthful of saliva, and it was no surprise that it was full of blood, and he was not unscathed in the face of Z's attack. I have already felt it, it's such a powerless fist. Vlad pulled a wanton smile. Mr. Zephyr. I said earlier why I didn't use the ability, of course, because if I use the ability, with Z's current physical condition, the battle will be over soon. But giving up all the freedom just now is another situation, and taking the initiative to accept Z's attack, of course, not because Vlad is a shiver, just because Vlad wants to confirm. It's shaking, your fist is shaking too much. There's no lethality at all. I can feel it from your fist, as if you're saying something like this. Vlad said, it can't be done, how can it be done, it's the wrong thing. Come stop me, come stop me. I seem to feel it. Such a will. Fart. The vigorous figure did not stop at all, and charged directly towards Vlad. Come on, Mr. Zephyr. Vlad smiled. Since you long for someone to stop you, now. This person has come. It will definitely stop you. Boom. Shaking. Chapter 679 Ain. Boom, 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 boom. Huge sounds came from the island in the distance one after another. Among the huge fleet, On the large ship in the middle, a woman with sea blue hair, called Ain, had a worried face on his face. Folds. Are you still fighting? The woman looked worried, but, can Teacher Zephyr's body really support such a high-intensity battle? The opponent is still that bastard. I really don't know how to evaluate the man named Ferdinand Vlad. Ain, let's say he is a good man, but that guy is a pirate, or one of the 4 biggest pirates in the world, one of the monsters of the 4 emperors. The riots in the previous war on the top directly caused heavy losses to the Marine headquarters, and the old headquarters were directly burned. But if it is said that this guy is a bad person, it is not accurate. At least, for Ain himself, for Teacher Zephyr, this man is not an enemy. Ain understands this somewhat. She knew that the man's father used to be Teacher Zephyr's closest disciple and was treated like a son, so there was a wonderful connection between the 2 men, despite their different positions. Want to put an end to Zephyr's heroic life. Ain gritted her teeth. She knew that Vlad was serious, because her father admired Teacher Zephyr very much, so Huolong absolutely did not want to see Teacher Zephyr like this, sacrificing the whole new world for his revenge. He doesn't care about the lives of these people, but he doesn't want his father's idol to fall to such a level. That means, if the fist can't make Mr. Zephyr recognize himself, then... No, no. The woman turned her head. Bins, get me a boat. What? In the back, the man named Bins looked a little surprised. It can't go on like this, facing the fire dragon. To be honest, you also understand, in the state of Teacher Zephyr. Ain said solemnly, there is absolutely no chance of winning. That guy, although he doesn't want to admit it, but the man who defeated the Big Mom pirates, the Beasts pirates, and the Whitebeard pirates in a row is outrageous. I want to go. What? Bins was shocked. Ain, you've only been a hindrance to Teacher Zephyr. It was true in the past, but... Ain said solemnly, this time is different. What? Dash 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 dash. Boom, 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 boom. On the island, the battle continued, and Vlad had made up his mind to use his fists to stop Mr. Zephyr's whims. The surrounding ground has been shattered. Even if Vlad didn't use his ability, he just simply fought with Mr. Zephyr, and the consequences were still astonishingly powerful than a major earthquake. Boom. Wrapped in hockey was much harder than steel and slammed heavily on Z's face. Z's body was steepened then tilted, and a tooth flew out of his mouth and flew into the sky. At the same time, Z's attack also arrived, and it directly kicked Vlad's heart. It was a blow with amazing power. Vlad's eyes suddenly widened, and there were bloodshots all over the eyeballs. Whoosh. The 2 were knocked into the air by each other almost at the same time, and they fell heavily to the ground, carrying a road of dust. Little devil, if you don't use your abilities. Without the slightest pause, Z jumped up and shot out. Don't regret it if you die. If it can be done. Black shadow rose into the sky, fell from the sky, and kicked directly, I don't care if I die. Boom. The ground sank directly. Tonight, it was difficult for everyone on this island to fall asleep. The shock of the battle between the 2 men was earth-shattering. It's really troublesome. Vlad kicked on the huge mechanical arm, and his body was a little sore in an instant, sea stone or something. Do you dare to call me directly if you know the trouble? Z twisted his body, and the incomparably heavy mechanical arm had drawn a beautiful arc in the air and slammed directly towards Vlad. Hey! Crack! Vlad chuckled. His body regained its firepower the moment he got out of contact with the robotic arm. His right foot stepped in the air like a phantom, and his body was ejected, easily avoiding Z's blow. Moon step. Z was stunned for a moment. The huge mechanical arm hit the air, and Z's body with the strong inertial belt couldn't help but swerve. That is, at this time, Vlad's attack also arrived, and his footsteps stepped in the air again, and his body was already around. Behind Z, a cheetah-like dash forward, kicked directly behind Z with a heavy kick. Boom. No accident, Z was kicked and flew out, and rolled heavily on the ground. Moonstep is really not a very powerful trick. After watching it a few times, I will learn it. Vlad used to use the fruit ability to fly and couldn't use it, but today I can use it. Ah! Without stopping at all, his chest began to rise and fall, and the man whose face was covered in blood was already rushing towards this side. Ahaha! Reflect on it, Mr. Zephyr. With the most arrogant smile on his face, Vlad charged directly towards Z. Under my fist. The fight to the death continues. When Miss Ain came to this island, the strong shaking not only did not stop, but even more violent. Boom 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 boom. With the continuous vibration, just trying to stand still feels very difficult, and the body can hardly stand. The strength of the whole body is gathered on the legs, and the tall body rushes wildly on the coast. Don't make an accident, Teacher Zephyr. The battlefield has spread far away from the coast at the beginning. When Miss Ain finally arrived on the battlefield, this is what she saw. It's really annoying. With such a roar, a man named Vlad slammed a heavy punch on the huge mechanical fist. Accompanied by the sound of Karakara, on Z's right hand, the huge mechanical arm began to shatter, but it turned into scrap metal all over the ground in an instant. As a price, even with the powerful armament, blood surged above Vlad's right hand, the fist position looked a bit strange, and the bones were hit hard. Hey! Before Vlad could catch his breath, after the mechanical arm was shattered, it was not a broken arm, but another small artificial arm, on which the pitch-black hockey had been attached, and in Z's roar, a strong punch had hit Vlad's stomach, and the stomach acid rushed up his throat, and Vlad almost spit it out. Such a fist! Vlad roared, his arms directly wrapped around Z's head and pressed down. At the same time, his knees suddenly lifted and slammed heavily on Z's head. Is such a powerful fist thrown out of anger? What a joke! Get it! You can't do it! I will stop you! Boom boom boom! Knee bumps continued. Zephyr, aren't you supposed to be a hero, Z? It's almost time to realize it. What are you fighting for? Stop me! Suddenly, such a voice came from the side, and the woman choked in a low voice. Vlad was completely ignorant. If I don't stop, I will detonate. Well. Vlad finally turned his head. On the other side, there was such a small jar in the hand of a woman named Ain. There was some liquid in the transparent glass, and a stone was soaked in it. Yeah, a beautiful plan suddenly popped into my head. Chapter 680 Justice Hero Z. Really? With the last knee hit, Vlad let go of his hand and blasted Z directly out with a strong force, landing far away on the ground in the distance. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Dyna Rock. Really? In an instant, Vlad's body had appeared behind Ain's back, and his hand had already squeezed Ain's right hand. Ah! With a slight twist, Ain's slender arm was completely unable to resist Vlad's tremendous force. When he released his hand, the explosive rock in his hand had already fallen. Oh yo yo! The left hand came first, and easily caught this peculiar rock that would blow up this island into the sky if it fell to the ground accidentally. Really, be careful, Miss Ain, this is not something to joke about. What? It was only at this time that Miss Ain came back to her senses and looked back in disbelief. Don't move. Vlad smiled and twisted Ain's right hand behind his back. I suddenly have a good idea. Bastard, let me go. Ain struggled. Cooperate with me, Ain. Vlad smiled, maybe. Vlad leaned his head lightly on Ain's shoulder, with an interesting smile on his face, and said something in Ain's ear. Really? Ain turned his head and looked at Vlad, who was close at hand, hesitantly said, Is it all right? Try it. Vlad smiled. Little devil. Zephyr, who had been blown away by Vlad, had already rushed towards this side, looking extremely annoyed. Oh, don't move, don't move. Mr. Zephyr, come over again. Vlad smiled, his hand had already squeezed Miss Ain's swan-like slender white neck. I'll kill her. Ain suddenly felt that the air around him instantly cooled down, as if countless needles were piercing the surface of his body. Goosebumps arose all over his body, and his mind was blurred, as if the whole world was targeting him. Is this a monster of the fourth emperor level? Ain thought so, but he had not really acted yet, but the pure murderous aura already made him unable to move. What a terrifying power. This man was obviously about the same age as him, but his strength was vastly different. Once again, Ain felt a little uncomfortable because of his weakness. Ain. Z's eyes widened, and the expression on his face was a little frozen. Why are you here? Why, of course, for worrying about you, Mr. Zephyr. Vlad smiled. Of course I came to this island because I was worried that something would happen to you. Isn't it that simple? I'm sorry, Teacher Zephyr. Ain's face was a little ashamed, and he whispered, I'm sorry, because the opponent is this guy. Are you worrying about me? Z scolded, you bastard, are you looking down on me? Ain looked a little flustered, Don't be mad, Mr. Zephyr. Vlad smiled, Miss Ain is just worried. After all, you know the situation. I haven't used my abilities yet, so you are already like this. It turns out that if I hadn't wanted to come with you today in a close battle, Miss Ain's worries are justified. Little devil. Z said solemnly, but his fists were already closed. What the hell are you trying to do? What do you want to do? The fight is almost done, right? I can already feel it. Your anger has almost calmed down, and there is no point in fighting again. So, finally, let's do it. Vlad's mouth twitched. Let's play a game. Mr. Zephyr threw the explosive rock in his left hand towards Zephyr. What? Very surprised, he caught the glass jar thrown by Vlad. Z's expression was especially gloomy. What the hell? I've already given you something. Vlad smiled. Try it. Just crush the glass jar outside to detonate the Dyna rock. Mr. Zephyr, the island under your feet is one of the 3 endpoints. Just crush the jar in your hand. Your 1/3 of the goal has been accomplished, understand? Vlad jokingly said, is it very close to the target? What? Z's eyes widened. You. Of course, as a price, hundreds of thousands of people on this island will be blasted into the sky. Vlad rubbed his face on Ain's face. Also, this Miss Ain will also be turned to ashes with the skyrocketing fireworks. Want to try it? You guy. Z's body trembled in envy. This is your only chance, Mr. Zephyr. Vlad said, if you don't do it this time, I won't give you another chance in the future. Teacher Zephyr. Ain suddenly said loudly, don't worry about me. If it's Zephyr Sensei, if it's for Zephyr Sensei's goals, I don't even have to sacrifice my life. Ain. Z's body trembled, and he took a step back indistinctly. Teacher Zephyr, don't hesitate. Ain exclaimed, if this is your dream. Crack. The glass bottle in his hand creaked instantly, thin cracks appeared on the bottle body, and his hands were shaking. Oh, is this going to be pinched? Vlad smiled, looking very excited. Amazing. Mr. Zephyr, are you really so determined? Ha ha ha, alright, I agree with your ideals, feel free to pinch it. I won't do it in the future. Stop you again. Quote. Of course, the explosion didn't happen. Z released his hand and the glass bottle in his hand fell to the ground. After bouncing lightly on the ground twice, it stopped moving. Although there were some cracks, the thick glass bottle wall still remained. Not so easily broken. Yeah. Vlad smiled inexplicably, let go of Ain, and walked slowly to Zephyr. Looks like you can't do it. Of course it couldn't be done. How could it be possible? How could my most beloved disciple let such a child sacrifice his life because of his own revenge? Bang! A fist as hard as iron slammed into Zephyr's face, and the man swirled in the air before falling heavily into the distance. Mr. Zephyr. Seeing such a scene, Ain hurried over. So, you're almost there. In that mood, Mr. Zephyr. Vlad said softly, What are you waving your fist for? Isn't the so-called justice to protect the person you want to protect? Now, I have almost remembered this feeling. Anger, almost also time to calm down. Silently lying on the ground in a large font, Zephyr did not move. Dad once told me a story about. Vlad let out a slow sigh of relief. That's a story to tell, a hero of justice, Z. It's really attractive. For a man who is fighting for protection and justice, even me, there are times when I long for such a hero. Crack. His left hand slapped his face heavily, blocking the upper half of his face. Teacher Zephyr. Ain stood hesitantly, covering his mouth with his hands, looking a little unbelievable. Quote. How could this happen? How could this happen? I don't know if Ain was wrong, but the place where his teacher's hand was on his face seemed to be a little wet. It's so ugly. Z, no. Zephyr's voice was full of exasperation, and loudly declared, heroes of justice. Boom. Suddenly, in the distance, fireworks light up the sky.